are back again for another episode, I think number 26, Andrew, am I correct?
Yes, we are 26. We're past this quarter century mark.
And we're going to be doing this for another 75
now.
years, I can tell you that. So
I can tell you that, yeah. We're going to go all the way till we hit centennial numbers and beyond, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. But we are back again for another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm Stephen Billings, and Andrew Krabal is my co-host. And that's what we do here is talk physical media. And our guest this week is there's nobody better to talk physical media than the guy that owns a whole store full of it. I mean, don't you think so, Andrew? I mean,
yes. This is an exciting episode once again because we're getting a peek behind the curtain, if we can reference Wizard of Oz, if you will, where we're getting insider look at the world of physical media. And now we're lucky enough now to have Marc McCloud on from OrbitDVD and OrbitDVD.com, obviously, that we've plugged here on the show many times over the last couple of months. So it's nice to kind of, put a face, put a voice to the store in which we kind of hype up a bit.
Yes, we do. And Marc, are you there?
I am here. Yes.
Hey.
Hey.
What's up? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Are you in the store?
No. I'm up in my office crying right now. That's usually my daily routine. Is just I count the money, then I go upstairs and just cry for 8 hours.
So we caught you.
Yeah.
Is this after or before the crying session?
I feel a lot better after the cry.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
I'm in a good mood. Yeah,
that's
good
good,
stuff.
Man. That's good. I'm glad we caught you in a good mood. But yes, so me and Marc have already met in person. Andrew lives really far away, so unfortunately he couldn't come. But
well, we have met people from all over the country who come into the store. So that's no excuse these days.
I agree. Andrew has a lot of excuses all the time about not coming. He missed my wedding. And I was like,
what? That is true.
I was like, dude, are you coming to my wedding? Yeah, but there's this COVID thing. I was like, no, shut up, Andrew. Shut up. You should have came to my wedding.
In my defense, I had planned it out to go down when it was originally supposed to happen, and then the world kind of turned into chaos land.
Yes.
And that's why it couldn't happen. But OrbitDVD, for all of you who don't know, is located, in Asheville, North Carolina. So the origin of, kind of my discovery of OrbitDVD is it's tough to explain. I think I just came across it while just
Is it tough?
Internet.
Is it really tough? You were looking for movies, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's like one of my things to do is late night internet surfing.
Oh yeah.
Browsing shopping.
So what were you searching that started with an O that you somehow come across Orbit?
I have no idea how I ended up on the website.
Were you looking up?
You know what? This may actually go back to my ill-fated attempt at getting that Gamera set.
Oh, was it?
That I never was able to get. I think that's how I may have stumbled across OrbitDVD.com.
Okay.
But I stumbled across it in the wee hours of the morning, as my prime internet surfing and living hours are, and I was just like, hey, there's this cool store online that, hey, it looks cool, it looks legit, you never know. So I'm just like, hey, let me take
that's debatable.
a guess.
It's not debatable. It's a cool store. I've been there.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that, me and Marc have met. I was able to do, as I've advertised in previous episodes, I did go and visit OrbitDVD. And when this episode comes out, which should be on Sunday, what's today, the 13th or 14th?
Today's the 14th. Yeah.
It should be out. The video will be out along with this audio podcast. So you can go to the newly named Chasing Labels YouTube page, which used to be Cabzilla Productions and now is Chasing Labels. And you can go there, subscribe, please, and you will be able to watch the new video, which should be titled Chasing Labels on Location at OrbitDVD, something like that.
I got to change that title.
Well, I don't know. I was just guessing. But
I think that's what it is.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's it's rare in the modern age to find brick and mortar stores that are still selling heaps amounts of movies. I mean, that's how I discovered, and my passion for buying movies was the hunt. It was always the hunt in stores, going through shelves, going row by row, aisle by aisle, and going to OrbitDVD is kind of like doing that. it's kind of like doing that in the virtual digital world. So that's what really attracted me to it. So I ordered from there, and it was just a perfect experience. I could say that, not just because Mark is here, but just because it was just easy, and everything was exactly the way you would want it as a collector. Perfect packaging, fastly shipped, exactly what you're getting, and in pristine condition. I'm the type of person that is at the store. If there's multiple copies of something, I'm inspecting every single one for any little dent or any little smudge or whatever. I don't have to do that with OrbitDVD because everything's great.
Yeah, I
can
say
that
the same thing.
up.
I literally just got a package 2 days ago. It came very fast, and I got the Outsiders 4K from Studio Canal, along with the somehow you're getting this Mondo Vision Possession limited release, and everybody's like, "Where are you guys getting this?" Mark, can you explain this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the confusion is and this is what's confusing about Possession is like there's several companies that have released this. They're all official releases.
Yeah.
We just received a one from Australia.
Yeah.
Which is Umbrella.
Umbrella,
an absolutely fantastic company, one of our favorites. It's a little more budget, I guess, release. Their titles really are not very expensive, which is great. We love that for them, about them. But anyway, the American release, and people have been confused about Possession because, first of all, they don't think it's in print. They think it's just not available. It has always been available, at least for a few years, by a company called Mondo Vision. And there's two different versions out of the film. The first one is a special edition, and then there was one that was a limited edition. The limited edition we sold out of earlier this year, and then it mysteriously became available again about a month ago.
Yeah.
And it's like going, well, I'm not going to question these things. I'm just going to get some more copies in. Mainly because they were out of the special edition. So it's like, okay, well, I'll get some more of these. And,
what's crazy about it is at least from our information, the release came out 7 years ago.
Yes.
And somehow 2,000 copies have survived in 7 years. And so that's like unheard of. And, like my copy is like 1,106, I think. So it's still got like 700, 800 releases left of it. And I'm like, it's been out for so many years, and it's a great movie. I watched it last night, and I'm like, man, this is all, the acting in this film is fantastic. And, like Sam Neill's performance is amazing. And,
it's amazing. Yeah. And then, of course, Isabella Adjani, I think she won a, I think maybe a Caesar Award, which is the French Oscars.
Yeah.
I believe she won for that one, but she definitely won in Cannes too. She won Best Actress at Cannes that year.
Yeah, it's a wonderful. It's really weird and surreal and odd. And I told Andrew, I was like, dude, it's like you could almost. To me, you can kind of match it with something like Eraserhead, like where it's got that oddness, but and it's about like light, things that are brought on by change in life, whether, and of course in Eraserheads, it's about having a kid. In this case, it's about having divorce.
Yes.
And how, and it's, so I was like, man, this is a great double feature. But yeah, so you guys seem to keep up your stock pretty well. That's one of the other things we really love about your store is, sometimes, there is a difference. Like some, for instance, something like a Diabolic DVD, they do like they have a pre-order system set up, but it seems like lately, I mean, and this is probably a lot to do with the mail being slow, but they seem to be backed up a lot, and you don't necessarily get your movies when it's release date time. But you guys seem to get them pretty fast, and then get them restocked very fast. I mean, what's the secret to
having no space to store things, I think, is really our motto there. But like, I mean, like, our business model is a little different. We don't do pre-orders yet, so I think we're going to try to find some way of introducing that, because we get absolutely tons of requests for pre-orders.
Okay.
But if you want to be guaranteed a title, I feel that there's two great companies working right now. Diabolic, you just mentioned, is one, and of course, Grindhouse is the other.
Yeah.
Where the pre-order system works great for them.
Yeah.
And I feel free to keep using them. And we do recommend people.
Yeah.
Those two companies, those people all the time. For us, though, it's like I don't like things sitting around.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. So as once we get stock in, we just want to send it out. And we know now that, especially now with the popularity of a lot of these titles, that social media post is all we need to do, and we're out of it in a few hours sometimes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Although we are especially the past couple of months, we are readjusting what we're bringing in. We have a joke in the store where the online business is we call it BR and AR, which is before Ricky O and after Ricky O.
Jeez.
We figured this out. We sold 1/10 of the allotment or the pressings of Ricky O.
Yeah.
And it was insane. And I think where we I guess are succeeding here is the fact that we go after stuff. Yeah. We don't say, well, here's the allotment, here's the pre-orders, we're going to get some more stuff in, more copies in, and then, we're going to kind of move on. In the case of like the UK, we have sometimes three different places we can find these movies from. So we say, okay, oh wow, Studio Canal, John Carpenter, 4K sets, that's crazy. So we go, well, let's go to this source and see if they have any, and then we'll go to this source and see if they have any. We're just going to grab as much as we possibly can. That has mostly worked for us. Sometimes we get stuck with things that demand sort of dies down on. But we're wanting to carry these as long as we possibly can until they completely run out. And I think that's where a lot of customers and fans have responded to that. So it's just great.
Yeah. Would you say that the key to all that, like having that stock, is just the relationships with the retailers that you're buying from, or like the
I think there's a lot to do with it.
Because there's obviously like you've said, there's other companies that you can go buy this stuff from. So like being able to get your hands on, like you said, as much as possible, and to keep getting it from them consistently isn't, I guess having a good relationship with them companies is what's important, to keep getting that.
That's correct. There's a few companies that we personally know, and that like us a lot. A great example is Vinegar Syndrome. They did a pop up. They did a pop up in the store. They're an actually constant because they're interested in us personally because we're kind of an anomaly out there. If you haven't noticed, they want to know how we're doing every now and then. So the relationship we have with them is fantastic. 88 Films is another one that we have gotten along really well with. We start off as a video store, and I think once we set ourselves up as that to these companies, they want us to succeed. We want them to succeed. So, but after that though, if we don't have a personal relationship with these companies, say like a Shout Factory or an Arrow or whatever, then you go to a distributor, and then on top of that, there's wholesalers that buy from the distributors. So it's like
gotcha.
There's multi levels there as far as getting the product, and of course the most ideal situation is from the company themselves. But
sure,
a lot of times they're we're all struggling to keep up, and they are as well.
Yeah, well, it just kind of reminds me a little bit of, because I know relationships matter when it comes to, because I used to work in a movie theater, and when you're talking about booking films, relationships matter there too, because sometimes a movie you don't really want it, but they want you to have it so you can have this bigger movie later. They kind of make you take on some things, and you have to agree to have a movie a certain amount of weeks. So there's a commitment there that you have to agree upon, and you maybe get a better commitment, and a better rate if your relationship's good. So, yeah. And one of the other good things about I like about your store and your site is that you accept trade-ins, and you can send them in from anywhere.
Oh yeah. That's actually worked out really well. At least as far as the acquiring of the used movies. I think people, and I totally understand this. How many times have you been burned buying something used on eBay probably
Yeah.
more often than you could count many times. So building that trust as far as selling used items on the website is definitely been a step-by-step process for us. But we have people that are sending us stuff weekly sometimes. They're just, either they're finding this stuff out in the wild, or they're so many people trade in all these groups on Facebook and whatnot, that they're able to get some stuff that I want, and they just send it in. So like every week I'm like going, oh wow, this is great. Yeah, just like send me more, and that is definitely building up as far as business goes.
Yeah. Andrew, did you have any more questions for Marc here?
Yeah, I mean, just as a consumer and as a consistent customer, I think what is also one of the benefits of OrbitDVD is their connection with the customer is very good. Specifically social media wise, like we've been saying, when it comes to restocks and informing us, the customer, as to what you actually have and what you're actually getting in. It's really nice to see just pictures of all of that. It's really nice to see what you're actually buying, what you're actually purchasing, what you actually have. Because
who takes the pictures? Is it you, Marc?
Yeah, I have social media.
yeah. There's a few of us. So like we've all had to define our own roles here in the store too, because like we all work behind the counter, and as we see other businesses growing. In addition to having a store, we actually have now a video game part in the back that's doing very well as well. So, so many different little pieces to the business. But there's a few of us that do the pictures. I got made fun of by several employees for my phone being terrible, so I went out and got a new iPhone about a month or two ago. So my photos, I think, have gotten a lot better. There's a couple other employees that do the nice borders and whatnot, and we actually are going to step it up now. With I think they ordered a fog machine, so we're gonna have a fog machine involved with the photos.
Oh, jeez.
And so
nice.
And we have a couple of offices upstairs where we can actually frame these shots really nice, and I'll let them know that they you guys are really responsive to the photos, though. That's great. And that definitely is something that early on. We noticed with the social media, Instagram in particular, is that like people responded immediately after shooting these photos and putting them online. A beauty of the store, just to frame it back a little bit, also is the fact that like a lot of the customers, you guys included, are seeing a store grow in real time. How many times have you seen? I remember Amazon when it first got started. A lot of people don't remember that though. So what a lot of you guys are seeing is us making mistakes, trying things new. It's like, hey, this works. We're going to run with this. Hey, this doesn't work. We're going to just pitch it. Whatever. So the patience from you guys has been absolutely fantastic because you don't have that opportunity all the time to see something brand new just sort of spring up, which is the online business. We really didn't have that before COVID.
Yeah, I would assume. I mean, that's how I discovered OrbitDVD, is because being at home constantly and having to buy my movies somehow. Not being able to get into stores and whatnot, and also just because the boutique stuff, it was actually tougher to get online. Before COVID as well. Like it's not that it all of a sudden became something that was normalized. It was tougher before, but now I think there are more outlets now, like OrbitDVD.com, that are getting more in stock, putting them out more, advertising more, and I think a lot of collectors are noticing that. I think it's been really beneficial for me, for someone who's particular about buying stuff. What I really love, and this is something that blew me away when I first got on the site, for those of you who are slipcover enthusiasts, OrbitDVD.com will tell you if something comes with a slipcover or not. This has been the plague and bane of my collecting existence forever, because I'm not a huge enthusiast, but I like them. I like them enough to where if it comes with it, I want it.
Right.
And I don't know if something comes with one or not, because all the sites and even eBay, sometimes the sellers will not tell you, but OrbitDVD will tell you.
Right.
And that's something that's incredibly unique, and it's unlike any of the other stores, I think. Stephen, that's what I sold you on.
Oh, yeah.
Initially.
Yeah.
Because I discovered OrbitDVD, then I told Stephen about it, and I'm like, hey, it's in your state, it's super close to you, take a look and see what they got. And that's how we're here now, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like the uniqueness of it really caught my eye.
Yeah, and this was right around.
Oh,
go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say that, like, you know, I was just joking last week, saying our tagline should be is like, we are as anal as you are. You know, basically, it's like, you know, we want to be as descriptive, and you know, slipcovers are the boon and bane of our existence right now, because it's definitely, you know, it's a tiny scratch on one, or you know, whatever. It's just like, you know, it's like people go nuclear sometimes, but you know, that obviously people really, really like them, like you. So you know, we want to make sure that it is part of the packaging. We want to make sure that the packaging is coming to you, A, described as perfectly as we can, and then B, you know, as in perfect shape as we can possibly give it to you as well. So yeah, it's you know, it's funny, the slipcovers, like, you know, so many I threw away, you know, just because we were a rental store until last year, and you know, think of all the early Shout Factories, all the early Arrows, Vinegar Syndromes. I threw all those covers away, tossed them. And,
wow.
I mean,
somebody listening to this just like broke a lamp or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we joke about it. I know a lot of collectors like, oh, they're just cardboard, they throw them out anyway. But the aftermarket for some of these slipcovers is pricey, to say the least. People will spend, you know, $100, you know, plus dollars for a rare slipcover.
I buy nothing but slipcovers from people too. Like people go, I got these slipcovers. I said, yeah, I'll make an offer. Here you go. You know, and in addition to used movies, I'm buying slipcovers. So,
yeah,
never would have thought that. Actually, I worked out a deal with a guy in I believe Taiwan, and actually I had because he has a bunch of rare Vinegar Syndrome ones, and I had to check with my contact at Vinegar Syndrome. I said, have you ever heard of any bootleg slipcovers out there or anything? You know, and he's like, going, no. It's like, okay, I'll go forward with this. But
yeah, you know, I love how much you guys are trying to integrate yourselves into how the fans of these think, and you know, you're molding your market around that, and I really love that you do all that. You do all that work to do that, and you're, you know, yeah. I mean, that's why I'm going to continue to buy, because you know, you're suiting us. So
yeah, and before we transition, I guess, into the main part of the show, like we always usually do, just some quick, I guess, kind of maybe OrbitDVD store background information. Like when did the store start? And you just said that it transitioned from a primarily rental store to retail store all within the last year, which seems like a very quick
well,
change.
the death knell for the video rentals business was clear 10, 15 years ago. So
yeah, it's gone.
So basically, yeah, let's just give you the short story. We opened 18 years ago. Same location. We were actually in the back of where we were. We opened during the zenith of physical movie sales, 2003. That was the absolute biggest year that Hollywood ever experienced. At that time, DVD and VHS sales, and then of course it's been a slow decline ever since. About a few years on, like maybe around 2010 or so, I realized that, okay, this isn't going to be commercially viable as purely rental. For a while I was trying to be like Scarecrow Video in Seattle. I'm like going, I want everything. I want every single movie, and I got pretty far up there. I got like maybe close to 40,000 titles. Now, if you think about that, that is a lot of movies. A lot of movies.
That's
It's pretty close to how many I got, but okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah. Scarecrow, by the way, I think has 150,000 titles to rent. So, but anyway, so I just started, you know, shrinking the rental section, and then bringing in, you know, things. It really wasn't the boutique labels, because they were kind of around, but I think maybe the transition over to Blu-ray kind of, you know, really got their business going. It actually came down to one film. It was Pumpkinhead, like the Shout Factory Pumpkinhead. Yeah. People try to buy that off the shelf every single week as a rental, and they go, "Can I buy this?" And so, and my policy was, well, if I can replace the rental, yeah, I'll sell it to you. Sure, I'll make some money. So the Pumpkinhead sales were like, it was weekly. I was like going, well, okay, Shout Factory, Scream Factory. Okay, let me do a shelf. Of course, it's a John Carpenter thing, films and whatnot. So a shelf turned into a section, which turned into a wall, which turned into 2 walls, which turned into, a whole floor. And
that's
now,
history.
Online, yeah. So anyway, we always identify ourselves as a video rental store, and I always wanted to keep it going, but COVID really did put the final nail in the coffin there. It was probably around. I say pre-COVID, around maybe 20% of the business, and it just dried up to like around, I say about 4%.
Yeah.
And it took up a lot of floor space, and I was like, okay, let's just do something different. However, we are going to plan to bring them back, and it's going to be kind of a different business model where basically customers could rent them for free. For a day. So and I made it lean and mean. I worshipped actually there's a movement in the 90s of these sort of dungeony video stores usually ran by one fan, and that's where like all the bootleg stuff, it's like these people would seek out like the uncut Suspiria or Cannibal Holocaust or things like that, and I sort of want to mimic those stores from the 90s. So it's going to be a smaller selection. It's going to be lean and mean, basically.
Okay.
Horror and cults and directors we like and things like that. But
well, I mean, that's the fun thing about the rental stores is just getting the obscure titles that are being suggested to you, hopefully by somebody that knows some weird stuff. Because you obviously you know where Jurassic Park is on the shelf, where but let me get some weird stuff, and that's what it sounds like you want to do is kind of just show people the weird stuff. Yeah,
my whole life mission has been really just to screw with people's minds. One of the first things I did when I moved here was what's now Asheville Pizza. They have a theater, and I brought in a 35 millimeter print of Meet the Feebles. I found that a local film distributor actually had the rights to Spider Baby, so he had it could have been 16 millimeter. I don't think that was in 35, but so anyway, I had a double feature of Spider Baby and Meet the Feebles, and maybe a couple hundred people showed up. I can't remember exactly, but it was like the craziest, weirdest, most awesome nights of my life. And we're talking like 1998 or something. I think it was like 97, 98, 98, I believe. And people still kind of talk to me. It's like, I was there, man. And it's like, that's all I want to do.
I would love to do. That's something I would love to be like. I would love to do too. I used to work at a small 4-screen, and I always wanted to try to do like some midnight stuff, And now it's a lot easier because of digital.
Right.
But that theater closed down, unfortunately. So especially of course during COVID. But yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds good, Marc, man. I appreciate you sharing that with us, and you can hear a lot more about Marc's journey, if you want to say it that way, in our video that will be released with this. So, Marc, you want to talk some releases with us?
I'll pretend like I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Okay. Sure. All right. Cool.
Sounds good.
That's exactly what we needed from you.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do too.
A vote of confidence. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. All right. So, where do we want to start, Andrew?
Well, we do have a couple of kind of single one-off release announcements from this past week, and I thought we'd start right on top. Steven creates these nice.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I did forget something. This is bad podcasting, I know, but I meant to do this in the last episode, and I promised I would do it this episode. So it is November, so it's Noir-vember, and we're big Noir fans.
It is Noir-vember.
And are you a big fan of Noir, Marc?
Yeah. I guess I could not be called a movie fan and say I hate it.
We would definitely judge you. I mean,
right, of course, yeah.
Yeah, but so we on our Facebook group page, I decided to kind of make a post, and right now, the Criterion sale is going on at Barnes & Noble, so Criterion's got a lot of good film noir in their collection, and I had asked our group members to name some of their favorite film noirs from the Criterion collection, and I was just going to shout out a couple of these. We got Matt Slee, who was on the podcast not too long ago. He brought up The Third Man, In a Lonely Place, and Gilda as some of his favorites. You guys seen any of them?
Oh, Third Man, of course. Yeah, that's proto. That's like almost like proto noir right there.
Oh yeah.
Right at the end of
like
World War
staple.
II. Yeah, really great.
I mean, I know here on Chasing Labels in our previous iteration, Cinema Discovery Project, we did entire episodes on both In a Lonely Place and
Gilda.
What was the other one,
Gilda.
Steven? And Gilda.
Yeah.
So we went in depth on both of those films on how, how big of a masterpieces they are, even, outside of the film noir genre. Those are like staple films.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, those films are staples.
I have a Criterion title I can add too.
Sure,
if you want
go
me to.
for it.
Yeah. And this one is considered maybe the most horror-themed noir film, and that's called Detour.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that one or not?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, that's what's his name? Elmer.
Yes.
And Edgar J. Ulmer. Yeah, he had a great body of work, just all sorts of cross-genre films. And this one, a lot of people say is actually it's got enough suspense to where it sort of transcends the noir and goes more into the horror thriller categories out there. It also has a killer car. It's an awesome car. Film.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It
I
does.
remember watching. I remember when that came out. I watched it, and it's such a great restoration. And it's only about an hour long, but it kills for an hour. Like it's perfect, the perfect amount of time. And speaking of Detour, one of our other comments here is from Jeffrey. I can't say his last name. Foucault. I'm probably butchering it, and see, I know this guy in person, so he's going to get on me for saying it, but
Nice.
saying it wrong. But he brought up Detour. He also brought up Asphalt Jungle.
Oh yeah.
The recent Nightmare Alley that just got a spot in the collection, and also Kiss Me Deadly and The Killing. Are some of his favorites.
I was gonna bring up Kiss Me Deadly.
Yeah.
That was an early film noir for me. Is that Robert Aldrich?
Yeah, it's Aldrich. Yeah,
That's
Yes.
Aldrich. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a
I
good
almost
one.
get that and I almost get Aldrich and Otto Preminger confused, but they're completely different directors.
I don't know
Completely
if
different.
Preminger ever did a noir. I almost feel like that's in his wheelhouse. That'd be perfect for him. But can't remember if he did one or not.
I guess if you want to consider something like, was it the one with murder in the title? What's the Preminger movie?
Oh, and Anatomy of a Murder?
of a Murder.
Oh, yeah.
That's like, it's like mystery.
It's like it's like more of a courtroom drama.
I mean,
but
it's got some. It's in black and white. Is that close enough?
Yeah,
Jeez.
but Otto Preminger, he did Bunny Lake is Missing. That was 1965, so kind of more neo-noirish. But I remember that being kind of a neo-noir.
Okay. Some of the other ones we got here from Jonathan James, we got Notorious, the Hitchcock film.
Oh yeah.
He said some of the other ones that we already said. We got Tyler Foster here that says High and Low, which is the Kurosawa film, which would be probably more of a neo-noir.
Yeah, we did a whole episode on that film as well.
Definitely.
Great Akira Kurosawa. Toshiro Mifune.
He did Ride the Pink Horse. Was another one. Pick Up on South Street.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have, let's see, Dean Estes says Sweet Smell of Success, and Mildred Pierce are a couple of his that he brought up.
Most definitely.
We have Johnny Pomato, who brings up The Long Good Friday, and Mona Lisa, which just recently got a release. So yeah, I mean a lot of good ones here. I mean, one we also did an episode on was Night of the Hunter. Is a good one.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
And that also kind of goes into the horror area too.
Yeah. I saw a case for recently that film being folk horror.
Yeah,
actually, and it's like, I
could see that
for sure.
Yeah, I could see it. There's a lot of religion in it, and I think religion or paganism or that seems to be in folk horror a lot.
That and just like sort of like a rural sort of cut off a population, I think has a lot to do with that as well.
And beautifully shot. I mean, that's some of the best. I mean,
That's a gorgeous movie.
It's sad that Charles Lawton only did the one movie. Like,
Right.
I mean, but
That'd be a good episode for somebody. It's like going like best one hit one film wonders.
Yeah.
He's not alone. There's other filmmakers have only made one film that were amazing, and for whatever reason, just didn't make anything else.
Yeah.
But Lawton could be the best. The best one-time film director.
We did a whole episode on people's first films, on directors' first films, and we threw him in there because it was his first and only film. So it was just
first, middle, and last.
Yes.
Yeah, first and last. Steven, are there any more?
That's it. That's it for our comments. But thanks to everybody in our group for commenting, and we'll try to we'll try to make this a routine thing. I want to get the group more involved. So, but all right. So yeah, let's move on to our release schedule here. You want to start with 88 films?
Yeah, let's go with the 88 films. They're releasing a Blu-ray release in March of John Sayles' film, Matewan, Matewan. That's how I pronounce it.
I always said Matawan.
Matawan.
I don't know.
It could be Matawan.
I'm horrific with pronunciation.
Oh, I am too. Hey, dude, we're going to be good friends.
Matewan, or I think it's Matewan. I can't remember.
I
think I got a clarification because I was at a party one time with William Olden and Harmony Korine, and I think I did talk to him about that film, and I think he pronounced it correctly, but of course I forgot
Jesus,
how Will
you had it.
is.
You had the answer, and you didn't get.
I know.
But yeah, 88 films.
Yeah, this was of course already released recently by Criterion, and so I assume they're taking, because it says previously completed 4K restoration, which I assume is the one they used for the Criterion release.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and it says supervised by director John Sayles, so I assume he supervised that. It just says and more coming when it comes to special features, but it's coming March 28th, so that is quite a ways away. I can't think of 2022 right now. And I know we've already dropped like January titles for some companies, so obviously they are already thinking ahead. But yeah, that's one from 88 Films, which is interesting because they usually have a nice slate, and so maybe this is just like kind of one in an upcoming slate that we'll eventually cover.
What's interesting is I mean, not that it's the only thing they do, but a lot of what they do is Chinese films and kung fu stuff and
martial arts and all that kind of stuff.
Slashers.
They do have a horror collection. Yeah. And this is kind of just a little bit different from what we're used to seeing from them. But
it is.
Yeah, I mean it's a great film.
Drama.
Small town, railroad. Chris Cooper's great in it.
Yeah, Mary McDonnell, David Strathairn, great character actor, based on a true story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed the film. I think I own the Criterion, so it's not something that I would double dip on, but it's just interesting that it's coming from them.
Yeah. All right.
So moving on from 88 Films, we have one from Synapse. It's called Thriller, A Cruel Picture, and this is one that kind of snuck a little bit under the radar, but has quite a write-up here. For what's coming out, and I know Synapse is a smaller boutique label that we haven't talked too much about, Steven, but I know I have a couple of their releases, predominantly. It's right on my shelf. I'm looking at it. I can't remember. Suspiria.
Yeah. The Suspiria
Argento Suspiria, which coincidentally that Marc is here. I bought the 4K from OrbitDVD.
Oh,
that was one of my purchases. Yeah,
there's gonna be a lot of plugs on this episode.
It's like 6 degrees. It's 6 degrees of OrbitDVD today.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I can never get past 1 degree myself.
Well, you are the 1 degree.
Right,
You're the one like right there.
Yeah, Synapse is one of our favorites because he's been around for a long time. Probably might be as long as I have been. But like, his catalog isn't the largest. And the release slate isn't the largest, but they are all notable. They're all fantastic. Like he just released the 4K, the American 4K of Demons 1 and 2.
Yeah,
and that's been huge.
That was a big hit. Yeah, that had a lot of buzz,
especially after the Arrow editions sold out. People wanted another, and a more affordable 4K, I think, than the Arrow ones. And I know Arrow put out standard editions, but. Yeah, I mean, 4Ks of course are region free, but this was I think it was nice to see a another probably a little bit more affordable option for people if that like these two movies. So
yeah, there were a lot of Demons 1 and 2 releases, like you said, Arrow, and then this got announced almost simultaneously.
yeah.
I know we covered it here, and we were like, "Hey, didn't they just announce those?" No, it's a different company. But Synapse, I've known about Synapse for years, and they've put out like Tenebrae, they put out Suspiria, like I said. Yeah, they're a great company when it comes to horror. I've known them synonymously with horror for all these years.
And I was alluding to this earlier, but this is the film that Marc has a T-shirt of, isn't it? Right? Isn't this? Yeah.
We have a artist interpretation.
Yeah.
It's a pretty iconic. If you haven't heard of this, if you haven't heard about this film, it's a pretty seminal exploitation film that came out of Sweden, and I don't think the filmmaker really had done much else before or after. Maybe a couple films here and there, but the images have been lifted by everybody, including, of course, Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
For Kill Bill and the music, just everything. So it's a revenge film, best way to put it. And it's notably it's a very, very beautiful actress, Christina Lindberg, who we all are infatuated with still. And she kicks ass in this thing. It's great, and it's been available on DVD forever. This is another one like The Possession. Possession, where people don't think this film existed on physical media, but it's like, nope, the DVD's been available for a while. But what I heard was the filmmaker was wanting a pretty penny, thanks to Kill Bill, to put out or to get the Blu-ray rights. The rights, I'm sure were achieved before Blu-ray existed, and they had to probably redo a contract or something like that.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, really, really excited about this. A lot of genre fans. This is going to be a big, big title, a big one.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is going to be a big seller.
Yes.
I mean, just like you said, just the popularity of the image itself. Like, I know the image of the character in the movie, and I've never seen the movie.
Yeah.
Predominantly, I know that because, and I do this all the time for those of you on the show, is I pull out random things that are around me that have to do with the show. I actually do have an OrbitDVD sticker here that does have
there it is.
that does have the image of this on there. So I was like, oh, that looks familiar. Oh, there it is.
Great.
So I know it's a podcast and people can't see it. It's just kind of a running gag here on the show.
One thing I was thinking, an aside here, but one thing I was thinking about for the future is maybe we could release these, chats, these video chats, as maybe part of the YouTube channel, or maybe if we decide to ever do a Patreon, maybe we can use them as Patreon bait.
I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I would use that.
I don't know if anybody wants to give us any money for this podcast, but maybe.
I mean, if you want to see us,
they pay for everything else out there. So
I know, right?
Why not, right?
Just give us $1, please.
Whatever works.
If you could get 200 of you to pay us $1 a piece, that's it. That's good. But
I like the fact that I'm excited about. I'm always excited about special features, and Lindbergh sort of ducked out for a while. I think she had a professional career, but she's back on like the convention circuit now and screenings and things like that, and she's still fantastic. And I'd love to see her at a convention somewhere. I don't know how often she gets over to the States, or not, but
for horror conventions, I'm not sure. But I can say that this release is coming out in March 8th, I believe.
Ooh, it's my birthday week.
There was a 4K restoration of this done in 2017, and they were showing it in screenings. So I'm kind of assuming that the transfer is going to be taken from there, hopefully.
Right.
Because that would be nice, because it would be a fresh master, fresh restoration. And it is coming with quite a few special features. It's coming out uncut and uncensored in high definition, and I'm assuming the original 1:6:6:1 aspect ratio, original Swedish language, alternate English dub soundtrack if people are interested in that, still galleries, theatrical trailers and TV spots, which are still a thing, outtakes, alternate harbor fight sequence, and then Thriller, a cruel lab mistake, rare photos from an unused fight sequence that was ruined by the film lab during production, and Thriller, the story and pictures, reversible cover art, from Wes Benskoter. So I dig the artwork on it.
Yeah,
I really do, because even the reversible art's also really cool.
And there's multiple cuts of this film too, so I wonder if they're going to have everything on here, or if it's just going to be the uncut. And now this is also uncut, I think, with some hardcore inserts as well. So I don't know if that's the original director's version or not, or that's something that was added just to the exploitation circuit in America and Europe and stuff. But I'm curious to see how many versions of this film are on this disc.
Yeah,
it says 104 minutes, whatever cut that is.
I mean,
it looks like one
it's
cut.
going to be the most complete cut that's out there, I'm sure.
That probably exists, yeah.
All right.
So, Stephen, moving on from there, I guess we'll move to Shout Factory, whom we've already mentioned here today and in previous episodes as well. And we have a couple of releases. First up is Lion of the Desert, a 4K release.
Yes.
Which is surprising to me. Stephen, is it surprising to you?
Nothing surprises me. Everybody's putting out 4Ks these days.
That is true, but usually it's 4Ks of movies. Actually, no, it is boutique. Boutique. That's the great thing about boutique. You'll get 4Ks of movies you've never heard of before.
Yeah, this is it looks like it's kind of a sand, a war film in the desert kind of thing. It's both this and the other film, The Message, that's in this release schedule, are both directed by the same guy, Mustafa Akkad.
Mustafa Akkad, yeah.
And these are the only two movies I think he directed.
No, I was telling Steven beforehand, he's primarily known as the executive producer for Halloween 2, 3, 4, 5, Curse of Michael Myers, H2O, and Resurrection. I think that's what he's most
he's
associated
kept
with.
the Halloween franchise alive, apparently.
For a very long time. Until now. But Lion of the Desert, it looks like it already had a Blu-ray release several years ago. Yeah, 2013 from Starz/Anchor Bay. So this is going to be much newer than that. And this film stars kind of a pretty good cast. Anthony Quinn, Oliver Reed, Rod Steiger, John Gielgud. It looks like an epic from 1980.
Yeah.
I was just telling Stephen before the show, it looks like more Oliver Reed starring films have been coming out lately on Blu-ray, and I've always liked him as an actor. I mean, I think people probably most well known him for his last role, which he didn't get to complete, which was in Gladiator by Ridley Scott, where it was one of the first times, I mean, I could be wrong, it's one of the first times ever that they had to use CGI to replace an actor in a movie because they passed away. I remember that being part of that film. So yeah, I'm very interested in this film. And what was the other one, Stephen? It was The Message?
Yeah. The Message is about Muhammad.
I
believe, yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, I did. I have heard. This is a controversial film, if I remember correctly.
Well, I mean, it's almost 3 hours. There's something controversial about that. I mean, God.
He liked the epics. Yeah, I've never seen The Message, but I have seen Lion in the Desert. It's a good war epic out there.
It looks like it's a lot of it's shot on location. Back in that time, when did what's the popular movie, the Western that kind of killed the epics of that time? What is it called? It's a Criterion release.
Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
When did Heaven's Gate come out? Because this, I feel like
70.
It's like early 80s. I think
I was going to say, because if this
Heaven's
came
Gate.
after Heaven's Gate, it's kind of odd because I mean it looks like a pretty big movie. We know Heaven's Gate kind of killed these type of movies for a while.
Heaven's Gate was 1980.
Okay, so it happened the same year, yeah.
roughly same year.
So Lion of the Desert and this movie killed the. We don't know which one it was. Actually, this one's pretty highly known, so it's.
The Message came out in 1977, and I think the controversy behind it is you're not. According to Islam, you're not supposed to show an image of Muhammad. So obviously, shooting a biopic about the Prophet Muhammad would probably not be good in the eyes of many people. But this coincidentally also had a Blu-ray release already back in 2013 by Starz/Anchor Bay. So I think these two movies get released tandemly together.
Yeah.
8 years apart.
Well, I mean,
Blu-rays came out in 2013. These come out in 2022. Yeah, 2022. They're both 4K releases too.
Well,
this could be, and not to besmirch the filmmaker or whatever. This could have been a package deal that if they're going to put out all the Halloweens on 4K, that these come with them.
Yes.
It's like, who knows?
Well,
I didn't even get that connection until you just mentioned it because of all the 4Ks that just came out. And even though they only did, for him it would have been 2, 3, 4, 5, because they didn't do Curse and they didn't do H2O or Resurrection yet. But I'm assuming they're coming. I mean, you can't give half a franchise.
Only somebody like Mark, who deals in this business, would have made that connection, because I would.
Yeah, I know. He's got the inside track.
Yeah, he knows something.
Well, just guessing at this point, really.
All right, Mark.
I mean, it's an educated guess.
Shout Factory's telling the estate, whoever owns the rights to his films, they said, we really want Halloweens, and like going, wait, these two are here. We'll take those as well.
But you're gonna have to put out the message and Lion in the Desert. Okay, all right, I guess. But for the only 2 movies that this guy did, I mean, they seem to be both highly regarded. So I'd be interested in checking them out. I don't know if I'm gonna just go right for a 4K for them, but yeah, we'll see. All right. Well, let's move on to our
Moving on down the line.
Next one we got here.
So we're back. We're back to our old friends, our old faithful friends, Kino Lorber Studio Classics. Once again, we talked about stuff last time. We're going to talk about stuff this time. And starting off here is a film called The Card Player. Came out 2004. And this is a film by Dario Argento.
Yeah.
Actually. One of his, I guess, more modern works, if you want to consider however long ago 2004 was modern.
Oh, God.
But
so long ago now.
I can't even think about that.
Try being me.
I get it. You're old. We get it. No, I'm sorry.
2000. Stephen, where were you in 2004?
2004, I was in my second year of high school. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I think I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
That was 2004. But this is coming out in January. So this is part of their January releases. Also, I guess it's best to mention that a bit of their February slate of releases kind of got leaked online or kind of dropped. So there's kind of a tentative release schedule for that available online if you're curious. Highlights from that would be, Stephen, I need you.
Which
I need
you talking about the Kino releases?
Yes, the Kino releases.
All right, so the card, like you said, the Card Player, and then the next.
Well, I'm talking about. Remember their February slate kind of got released a little bit.
I haven't seen. I have a slew of films. I looked at it before the episode, so I got everything here that would have been a part of that. What we've got so far.
So it was Touch of Evil, the 4K.
Oh, you're talking about
remember, it's going to get released. Yeah, that's getting released in February sometime. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which got announced, and that's getting released in February. The one with Gary Oldman.
Which version? Oh, the newer one. Okay.
Yeah, the newer one. Because I think the 70s was a miniseries already has a Blu-ray release somewhere across the line.
Yeah.
So that's getting released, and finally, the Jim Carrey film, the Man on the Moon.
Yeah.
Is getting the Blu-ray release that we've been waiting for forever.
Yeah, I think that's it, right? Yeah. Also,
so that was the highlights from that
Chomps.
slate.
That's the other one.
Yes,
the dog movie Chomps.
Oh, you know which one's going to sell the most will be Chomps for us.
It's going to be Chomps, of course.
Yeah, forget the Jim Carrey dramatic classic about Andy Kaufman. Chomps. That's what we need.
There's also a Code Red Kino Lorber release called Privilege from 1967. And
Privilege?
Yeah. From 1967.
Oh, wow.
You seen that one?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Tell us about Privilege.
Let's see if I can. Peter Watkins?
You're gonna have to tell us. I don't know this one.
Is it? Well, I mean, if it's the Peter Watkins film, it's fantastic.
Let me see. Let me do a little quick search here. To pause for station identification.
I mean, I'm looking up Privilege right now, but I let's see here. Kino.
It is 1967. Come on now. It's Peter Watkins. Yep, Peter Watkins.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
That's
So Peter Watkins is a really fascinating filmmaker that had kind of a resurgence in the early 2000s when we first opened up as a rental store. A lot of his films have been sort of prophetic. Like they really have shown how the world has gone. His most, I guess, infamous film with that is this one called Punishment Park.
Okay.
That got tied together with a lot of like sort of like post 9/11 Iraq War rhetoric out there. He also did probably the first anti-Vietnam War film, but it was tied to the last English film on English soil, or the last English war on English soil, which is Culloden. However, it was with a film crew, and it was shot matter of fact style, like the news did in Vietnam. It's crazy, and they came out like in '65. But anyway, this film came out in '67, and it's about the state, or in this case, Britain. I don't think they really call them Britain at this point, where they manufacture a pop star to sort of keep the youth in line.
Okay.
And yeah, it's really, really good.
Okay.
And once again, it comes down to, there's a lot of stuff you can read into this as far as what has happened in today's society. So Watkins, I hope that if Kino has the rights to all of Watkins' films, that's fantastic, because it really needs to be rediscovered. Yeah.
They're getting their hands on everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Kino, we can't keep up with Kino. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a running joke on our show, is that every episode we have to talk about a handful of Kino releases, because they're always putting out something, which is great.
And it's not that,
but it's overwhelming.
And it's not that they're putting out stuff; they're re-releasing stuff from other companies that have either only have Blu-ray rights to them, so they're releasing the 4Ks, or the other companies have lost the licenses, and Kino's picked up those licenses. Yeah. A lot of stuff from Twilight Time and stuff like that they're just picking up the licenses, right. And we're just seeing these movies come back that were released a couple of years ago. And yeah, their catalog right now it's
crazy.
Hundreds of movies.
Thank God that they do sales pretty regularly, because I don't think I could ever keep up with, buying.
I would be fascinated if there's any collector out there who's Kino complete, who has like every Kino release, because that in and of itself is hundreds of movies.
Well, it's also like their scope. You're talking about 88 films releasing Meituan. It's like Kino is absolutely everything.
It's crazy, yeah.
From like silent westerns to modern documentaries to anything else you could possibly think of. They truly are film. They are film in a nutshell for us.
Yeah, there's no genre that they haven't delved into so far. Everything. I mean, it's nice as a collector. It's nice as a film fan, because they are bringing a lot of movies to light that probably wouldn't get high definition releases, had they not put them out. So that's super beneficial for us.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that partial February slate is out
and there's
there.
Still more. Do you want me to go over the rest of them? Because there's more.
Oh yeah, we're going to go through the rest of them. I just wanted to mention that slate because there are three prominent ones that we've talked about before.
Yeah.
In Man on the Moon, Touch of Evil, which everyone who's listened knows my obsessive love with Orson Welles, so that's a must buy. And then Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy that we've talked about before, and then now Privilege, Code Red, and Kino Lorber, since Marc has kind of sold us on it. Yeah. So I'm definitely down for that. But moving on from there, let me switch over to what they've released recently, and this is The Card Player, which you talked about, Dario Argento film, 2004. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of later Argento work, his more modern stuff. People don't tend to talk about a lot. I noticed that.
Yeah, it's like how completist do you want to be? We often, me and my friends would joke about, like the last great one is perhaps opera. But
that was 1980s.
Yeah, like late 80s. But Stendhal Syndrome. I watched that again, and that's a good movie. So there's flashes here and there from him.
Yeah, and I know that his work has been getting a lot of recent buzz because of all the re-releases through Arrow that people have been scooping up. those big, limited edition collector sets that are now in 4K of, Bird with Crystal Plumage, Cat of Nine Tails, as well as Deep Red. I know those have come out recently. Those have been hot sellers. I see a lot of people posting about them on Instagram and other places like that. So there's a lot of Argento buzz right now, and it's nice to see there's a good collection of all of his work coming out, high quality at least. So moving on from there, next film is a film called The Seventh Dawn, starring William Holden, and this is getting a brand new 2K master. This is from 1964. This is actually a film I did get to see, and it's an interesting film. Kind of one of those post World War II, like aftermath films where people are kind of still dealing with a lot of that tension. This specifically takes place in like the Malaysian type area, and William Holden is like a rubber farmer, and he's dealing with like a lot of the local political issues and problems and British occupation and stuff like that. He's got a romance going on. It's an interesting kind of political film. I'm just a sucker for William Holden. I've always been a big fan of his, so I've always, wanted to see all of his work.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan too.
Yeah, I was gonna say haven't seen this one yet, and I'm gonna go on your recommendation. What's interesting here, the director Lewis Gilbert, he's also known for doing maybe the greatest James Bond movie, Moonraker.
Nice.
and the Spy Who Loved Me. He also did not jokingly, but he did a film that actually got a release through imprint recently, Alfie. That's got Michael Caine in it. It's really
great.
It's good, yeah. So Lewis Gilbert's got some interesting work here, and I'll have to check out The Seventh Dawn. What do we got next?
Okay, so next we've got there's a pair of Burt Reynolds films, one early, one kind of later. First is Impasse, and this is getting a brand new 2K master. This is from 1969, and I don't think this is a particularly well-beloved film from the late, great Burt Reynolds. I don't think he talked about it too fondly, and after watching it, I can understand why. It's not that great. It's not particularly great. Basically, it's another kind of, post-war movie dealing with this is like treasure hunters, where basically like Burt Reynolds and a bunch of people who were part of some type of crew or army at the time hid a bunch of like treasure in like an underground cave in the Philippines. So he wants to like assemble this crew to go get it, but it's like it's a difficult thing to do. That's kind of the premise of the movie.
Yeah. And
it's like Ocean's 11 with Burt Reynolds as the George Clooney character.
Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds cool.
It kind of sounds cool if you think about it.
Yeah, he wasn't really a big star until Deliverance.
Yeah.
So he really struggled a lot in the 60s. And they re-released a lot of this stuff after Deliverance because they go, oh, wait, he's actually starring in, say, Navajo Joe.
Yeah.
The spaghetti western. So sometimes the work wasn't up to par. For sure.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like you said, this was, I think if I looked at his IMDb right, this was his 7th feature film that he was in. He was in a lot of TV, like one episodes here and there in his early career in like the 50s and 60s. And it wasn't really until the 70s where he became much more popular, because that's when he would do, like we said, Deliverance, and he would do White Lightning. He would do, Gator, and then of course, Smokey and the Bandit, which I still think is one of the best comedies of all time. I firmly stand behind that. But moving on to more Burt Reynolds is a movie called Breaking In. And this was announced months and months and months ago from Kino. And it's finally getting a date, January 11th, and some details on it. Brand new 2K master, new audio commentary by director Bill Forsyth and screenwriter John Sayles.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of John Sayles, here he is again.
Daniel Kramer.
Yeah.
John Sayles once again makes an appearance here because he wrote the screenplay. And this was something I did not see, but it does seem like another heist movie if I'm just looking at the title and the synopsis of the film. It seems like a heist movie.
Is it going to have the small towny feel of Local Hero infused into it because I like Local Hero.
I was just gonna say, I was actually just gonna mention Bill Forsyth's film.
He's got some
Local
good stuff.
Hero.
Yeah. Local Hero was on Criterion, and I think Indicators released a few Bill Forsyths. I know they put out Gregory Girl and Housekeeping. So yeah, I mean, some more Bill Forsyth.
Local Hero is really, really good, starring Burt Lancaster. One of the later Burt Lancaster films. But I had seen another Bill Forsyth film, and I can't remember what it was. It was an earlier one. Let me see. Was it Gregory's Girl? Maybe. I think I did see that. But yeah, Bill Forsyth only directed 11 films. So if you're looking to be a completist for a director,
he's pretty easy.
It's probably easy.
Yeah. I think I did see this. I think he's like a safecracker.
Okay.
Remember this one? Yeah. But with the pedigree of Forsyth and sales, sometimes Hollywood, distills these movies down to nothing. I can't remember. I can't remember you having an opinion on this film. So.
Ironically, he is a safecracker, and the cover of the film is literally him holding a drill. It looks like a zoomed-in still of a frame of the movie as the cover of this Blu-ray, which is an interesting choice. Kind of really leaning into the whole safecracker vibe here.
All right.
Yeah, 1989. So we go from 69 to 89 when it comes to the late, great Burt Reynolds' career.
Well, let's go 10 years later and talk about the next movie.
Yeah, might have to take another
Bam.
jump. And this is Inherit the Wind, and this is a TV movie of an adaptation of the play of Inherit the Wind. Originally, in 1960, there was an adaptation by Stanley Kramer, which is considered to be the best adaptation.
That's the one I've seen. I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, that has Spencer Tracy in it. That's the one I would highly recommend people to watch. There was also one done in 1988 with Kirk Douglas was in that film. But I'm not sure if that was a TV movie or not. But the original one had,
I said,
Spencer Tracy, Frederick March, Gene Kelly, Dick York, Harry Morgan. I mean, it's kind of a star-studded cast just looking back on it. And Stanley Kramer, all-time really great director, very socially conscious director at the time. And it's a very socially conscious film. If you've never seen or read this, I first read this play probably in high school and maybe again in college. And it's a classic. It's based on a true story of the Scopes Monkey trial, which happened in the 1920s, where basically it was illegal to teach the theory of evolution in Tennessee. And this teacher decided to teach it to his students, and he got arrested for it. And so it was this big kind of court case trial type thing. William Jennings Bryant, who was a former politician, ran for president at one point, all this nonsense. He's the guy who George C. Scott is playing in this movie. They changed the names for the play and all that stuff, but that was a whole big thing back in the day. But this stars George C. Scott and Jack Lemmon.
Yeah.
And these were this was kind of the later things in their career. I know George C. Scott, I think, passed away not too soon after the release of this, and Jack Lemmon would pass away a couple of years after this and only had a couple of more, things on his filmography. Really two all-time great actors. I'll say this, I think Jack Lemmon, one of the best all-time, and I'll watch anything he ever did.
Yeah.
Just truly one of my all-time favorites.
The Apartment, we talked about The Apartment last episode.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time.
I love that movie.
I think that's getting a re-release coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
I remember reading somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, last episode we talked about the 4K coming out by.
4K, that's it, yeah.
Yeah. Coming by Kino,
Isn't it coming out by Kino? Yes.
Wow.
Well, Kino has. We mentioned in the last episode. They don't care. They're gonna they're gonna do it. They don't care who they're taking the title name from. They're just gonna do it. Whether it's Criterion title that got released, whether it's Arrow, whether it's anybody else, they're just gonna do it. Good for them. I mean, people will buy it, of course, and I don't blame them because they are re-releasing some pretty all-time great films. Some Like It Hot is getting a 4K release. The Apartment's getting a 4K release. If they look good, like we said, I'm interested a little bit. But this is getting a new audio commentary by entertainment journalists / authors Brian Reisman and Max Avery. This is a very journalistic heavy film as well. Great film, very play-like, great acting. It was a really good adaptation. I really dug it.
It's on Tubi.
It is. So you can stream this. You can stream this on Tubi. Yeah, I think that's the main place you could stream it.
It's free, so yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think coincidentally it's also streaming on YouTube as well.
Wow, that doesn't surprise me either.
I will say that another great thing that Kino does is release TV movies,
Yeah.
Yes.
which often got poo-pooed upon. Going all the way back to I guess the 60s and 70s, they've done a stellar job putting out films that the studios just didn't. They cast them aside.
Yeah, we talked about it a few months ago where they put out I think 2 TV movies, one starring Olivia de Havilland, and which was, I think it was just called Woman Screaming or Screaming Woman or something like that. And we talked about how, like, by the time the late 60s and early 70s came around, a lot of the classic, film stars of the golden age were kind of cast out in terms of getting roles in their careers. And they were kind of just relegated to whatever they could get. And a lot of them were, not great TV movies. TV movies have come a long way in the last 50 years. So it's interesting that these are kind of seeing the light of day because they haven't really had any real type of quality releases in the last, several decades, other than like VHS releases, I think.
Let me ask.
Because when we were... Yeah,
let me ask you, do you guys think they'll ever, since Kino puts out everything, you think they'll ever start putting out Hallmark Christmas movies on Blu-ray? What do you think?
I don't know about that.
I think there's another company putting out the Hallmark stuff. So
really? Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of
I still want to see that Will Ferrell one that he was it.
Was it with Paul Rudd? That one?
No, like it was.
You're talking about the one where they play it serious and straight.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They're serious. Yeah,
yeah. It's the one with his SNL alum member. What's her name? That was in Bridesmaids. Why is her name escaping me?
Maya Rudolph?
No, the other one.
The star.
Kristen Wiig?
Kristen
Wiig. Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen Wiig. Yeah, I know what he's talking about. I want to watch that too. Yeah, I remember when the trailers were coming out for that, and everybody was like, "What is this? Why is Will Ferrell doing this weird, Hallmark drama?" And it's like, I can't take it seriously, but it's got to be funny. Like I mean,
well, no, they both apparently played it straight.
Yeah, but it's still going to be funny.
Well, I mean, it's funny seeing those two in those roles. Yeah. A deadly adoption. That's what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
A deadly adoption. Yeah, and they.
Yeah, that doesn't sound funny.
No. it was a legit run of the mill Lifetime movie, but it was Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig.
All right. Yeah, I need that. We need that release, Kino. Let's do it.
Right.
I think a lot of those Hallmark movies, I think they end up getting DVD releases that just end up being released randomly at like Target and Walmart. I just have that feeling.
Well,
I can't tell you, because we got people coming in, special ordering films out of the store physically, and I can't tell you how many people come in because they've cranked out so many Lifetime Christmas movies. It's got to be hundreds at this point that they we get asked all the time for these things.
Really?
I have looked
That's
for
surprising.
them. Yeah, I have looked for a lot of this stuff, and I can't find them. TV only, or maybe just
they're probably all on a Lifetime streaming service, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure Hallmark has their own streaming service. Lifetime has their own streaming service. I don't think there's a channel on TV that doesn't have a streaming service somewhere, or is part of a streaming service at least nowadays.
But back on track. I'm sorry.
Back on track. Back on physical.
Oh
media.
No. Let's talk hours about Hallmark.
We can do this.
They start with them in July at this point, and they just keep going. But moving back onto what I assume is not a holiday Christmas movie, and this is called The Pink Jungle, starring James Garner, George Kennedy, and this is once again coming out on that January 11th date. This is getting a Blu-ray and DVD release, brand new 2K master, and that's about it. From Delbert Mann,
Yeah,
who's
Marty.
a director that
He did Marty.
Yes, he did do
Love Marty.
Which is got to be one of the best films I've ever seen. Or the late great Ernest Borgnine.
So what happened with this movie? Jeez, Pink Jungle. He went from Marty to the Pink Jungle. I mean, what?
I guess so. I'm trying to look up when Marty came. Marty came out, what, 1955?
50.
It's late 50s, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 1955, won Best Picture, Best Actor. We did a whole episode on Marty for the Cinema Discovery Project. We talked all about how amazing that movie is. Kino's released Marty on Blu-ray with some questionable aspect ratio issues that people have been talking about for years. But I adore that movie.
I'm sure
Marty.
Kino's going to do
Marty,
Kino's going to do a 4K of that movie. We know it.
I hope so. I hope someone does, and I hope they kind of fix the aspect ratio issues in it. I mean, it's not too noticeable, but there was a lot of buzz about it at the time. Yeah, Pink Jungle came out in 1968, Marty came out in 1955, so 13-year difference. A lot can happen in a career of 13 years.
I'm just
but
messing
James Garner,
with you, Delbert.
Yeah,
anything with James Garner's worth seeing in my mind.
Yeah.
I think he's just got this great attitude. And it's like going, hey, I'm in a movie. Hey, I'm in a TV show. What's this crazy stuff that's going on around me? So
he had great charisma.
He did.
Didn't James Garner play in the Fugitive TV show? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
Yeah,
I can't remember that.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of somebody else because he was in the Rockford Files.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
That was James Garner.
Okay,
and he was in
Maverick. Maverick as well.
Maverick,
fantastic
the Maverick TV
show.
Yeah, he was in Maverick. I mean, we've talked about it on this show briefly before. I would love a lot of these old classic television series to get Blu-ray releases at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to see Maverick get a Blu-ray release, or I think the Rockford Files did get a Blu-ray release through Mill Creek, I believe.
Oh wow, okay.
I should probably look that up before I messed that up. Let's see. Yes, it did. It did get a complete series release in 2017 from Mill Creek. So it's there's a few things here and there, but we've talked about this before a little bit, how a lot of the old shows just don't get love in the high definition era. And I know it's very cost effective and whatnot, but that's just something to bring up since we're talking about James Garner, who did both TV and movies and had great success at it, back in the day, which is a little unheard of because usually it hasn't really been up until now where actors and actresses have made the transitions from TV to movie back and forth and had great success at it. Usually people kind of stuck in their own lane a little bit for the most part.
Well, it was considered slumming it if you were a movie star and you went down to TV, of course.
Yeah, that's something you did later in your career,
right?
If you needed the work, and it's like nowadays it's kind of what you're looking for if you want to start your career.
They're all happy. Yeah, the biggest stars in the world have been on the streaming services and stuff. So
right. I know there were a few back in the day who did both. Lucille Ball started in movies, and then of course had I Love Lucy, and then that's kind of what people know her career of. But she was in movies when she was younger, and throughout her time on I Love Lucy, she was in movies as well. But she's predominantly known as that. I mean, we talked a little bit about Bewitched. I know Elizabeth Montgomery was in a kind of a horror movie that Kino just released coincidentally.
Yeah.
And that what was it called, The Victim or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's it.
And that I think that may have been a TV movie starring Elizabeth Montgomery that we talked about. But it just they tried at the time, but it's not like now where you can have massive success in both. It's nothing. It's like night and day. But this looks like a war film starring James Garner, and James Garner is a great all-time actor. George Kennedy, I think, is one of my favorite character actors of all time. I love the movie Cool Hand Luke because Paul Newman's my favorite actor, and George Kennedy was nominated for an Oscar for that film, and he's just amazing in that movie.
He won it, I think, if I remember correctly. He won the Oscar.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and I remember he passed away a couple of years ago. George Kennedy did. So it was just, I've always been a big fan of him.
Yeah, amazing exploitation career. Of course, if you're a supporting actor award winner, your career is going to tank. So, amazing career afterwards, of course. But it's an amazing Vinegar Syndrome film release, Uninvited. I don't know if you've ever seen that or not. The Killer Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember George Kennedy. He was in all like the Naked Gun film. I think he was like the police chief, and he was always being driven crazy by all of what's his name's Leslie Nielsen's character's antics and whatnot. I remember that. So moving on from there, we have let's see,
the noir sets.
Yes, the new film noir sets, Dark Side of Cinema. We talked about Volume 5 being released recently, and now Volume 6 and 7 is also getting released. They're going full tilt noir. That should be their next box set line, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to take us seriously, but I was kind of wondering if they were going to continue this line, and it looks like they are with three upcoming releases. And I know, Steven, how many of them do you have right now?
I have 4 of them. Because the 5th one hasn't. I think you can buy it at certain places, but typically I've bought this on Amazon, which I don't know. I got to stop buying from Amazon which I rarely do, but when I do, you've had the same experience, like, especially with these noir sets, because they're not like a thick cardboard. They get crinkled.
They get if you touch these. They can get damaged.
Yeah.
I think I use
my hover machine to move this one to the shelf. I don't actually touch it. So
I'm trying to look. Yeah. So Volume 5 is not out yet. It's coming out December 14th. So 6 and 7, I'm assuming, are next year.
Yeah, probably January.
That would be a good guess to me. Yeah. They don't even announce it here. They just say coming soon. But each of these sets, except for the first one, have 3 films. And Film Noir Dark Side of Cinema Volume 6 has Singapore, Johnny Soul Pigeon, and The Raging Tide. And then Volume 7 has The Boss, Chicago Confidential, and The Fearmakers. And what's cool about these sets is they're not typically well-known film noirs.
Yeah.
They're kind of more... maybe B-level film noirs that you're not really heard of. We just talked about A-level film noirs.
Kind of like they kind of are doing what Indicator does with their noir sets. They're not necessarily as well known, but sometimes you find some hidden gems here.
I have volumes 1 and 2. They're titles that I recognize tangentially. You know what I mean?
I mean, like one of these Johnny Stool Pigeons, a William Castle film, which is cool. Getting a noir, and it's got Shelley Winters in it. It's got Tony Curtis in it. I mean, it's something I'm definitely. I mean, I'm buying all these anyway, so I'm not even thinking about it. But I mean,
Singapore has Fred McMurray, Ava Gardner, like you just said, Shelley Winters, Tony Curtis, and these are early films too. These aren't. Because these are all from the 40s and 50s. There's 2 films here starring Shelley Winters. The Raging Tide also has Shelley Winters in it as well. And I'm curious if these are... I'd have to wait before I get them, because I know they get a lot of Universal Pictures catalog titles to put in these box sets. So I don't know if these are all from the Universal Film Noir Vault line or whatever. Because every company at that time jumped on the film noir train, like the Columbia Noir sets from Indicator. Fox had their own line of film noirs, like Laura is from there, and Nightmare Alley, I think, is from there as well. So I don't know if these are kind of like the Universal version of those lines. I'd have to do more research on that, but yeah, I'm down for it.
One film in this set called Fearmakers is directed by Jacques Tenaire, who did Curse of the Demon, and of course this also stars Dana Andrews.
Nice.
So
Laura connection.
Another film from them together. So, and of course Curse of the Demon's a coveted Indicator release. But yeah. That's more film noir. I'm not ever going to be upset about that.
No, and what I've said this many times about those sets is they are super affordable. So if people want to get some,
they're like $30
cheap. Yeah, they're like less than $30 if you can find them for cheap. So it's 3 movies. The quality of them is typically really good, and I would highly recommend those sets as well. But especially if you can find the first one, because I know the first one is really tough for people to get, and that one has 5 films in it, and it came out years before the first one came out, to the point where I don't think people thought that they were going to get a volume 2 in it, and it's just fascinating to me how first one came out in 2016, and then volume 2 didn't come out till 2020. So we're talking about a 4-year gap there in terms of not knowing if you were going to get the set. And the first set's not even it doesn't say volume 1, so maybe it was initially supposed to be a one-off, and then Kino kicked these into high gear. That seems to be what I think. But get them while you can, because they can become tough to get, especially volumes 1 and 2. I'm probably going to pick up volume 3 pretty darn soon, because who knows if it starts to become tough to find. And I don't want to get stuck in that no man's land that I get stuck in all the time, where I miss out on releases and end up having to pay through the nose for them sometimes.
You won't. You don't do it.
No, that's also true, Stephen. Don't give away.
That's what I do.
I'm trying to work the crowd here, and you're ruining it.
Yeah, I know. I do that sometimes. Sorry. You try to be a little bit fibby, and I tell the truth. I'm sorry. You're a liar.
The accusations.
I'm just calling you out. I'm just kidding.
Just kidding. The accusations. But that's it for Kino. That's Kino in a nutshell for this week, and that is all the way up until 8 hours ago as of this recording. So we are as up to date as you can get. Moving along here to
our last slate, which is not technically an official slate.
Yeah, we're kind of playing it loose and fast here, fast and loose.
Because
whatever you want to say.
A lot of this stuff I think Little White Lies, the magazine, leaked some of this, and then also it might have came from other sources. But I think we saw this at Dawn of the Disc on Instagram, post these February releases from Indicator.
Yes.
So we don't have like a full slate, like a full rundown of like features or anything like that to point to, but we do have the releases that they're saying are coming out, and we got 4 of them here, plus a re-release for North America. Which so the Third Echo is the film that has already been released from Indicator, that's now getting a U.S. release. But then we also have the 1973 film Voices. We also have the 1970 film Bartleby.
Bartleby.
Bartleby. I like the name Bartleby better.
That's the full name. The full name is Bartleby.
That's
yeah.
Yeah. And then 1982's An Unsuitable Job for a Woman. And then last but not least is 1976's The Devil's Men, which stars Donald Pleasance and Peter Cushing. So
yes.
That's going to be a big one right there, I think.
I will say this, on the Dawn of the Discs Facebook page, they do have the full breakdown of all the special features, but I don't think we'll go through all of them. I'll just say they all have extensive special features packagings, and they all have,
which is normal,
new restorations, some in 2K, some in 4K. I know Voices is 4K, The Devil's Men is 2K, and Bartleby. No, and then An Unsuitable Woman. An Unsuitable Job for a Woman. That's a mouthful of a title. It's a 4K restoration. But Unsuitable Job for a Woman is directed by Christopher Pettit, who we just talked about last week about the film Radio On. Right, Stephen?
Yeah.
Is it the same person?
From Fun City Editions.
From Fun City Editions, through the Vinegar Syndrome partner label, which is an incredible film. Pre-order that movie if you can right now, because it's fantastic. And then Bartleby is a 4K scan, and then the Triple Echo, like we said, is a U.S. release 2K restoration. What is interesting, I guess, while we have Marc here, because we talked about this a few weeks ago, and since he's kind of in the industry, and we were kind of trying to piece it out ourselves. Let's see if we can get his perspective on Indicator setting up shop here in USA and Canada land, about like their titles and what he thinks it means. Because we had a lot of thoughts on that, Stephen. Like, we didn't know, like, were they just kind of like distribution warehouses here for easier distribution to retailers like OrbitDVD, which we brought up on that show, or was it kind of more to it than that?
Well, the company that they partnered with, I'm using as far as distribution goes, so that's good. I will say, out of all these companies, the indicator films are the ones I actually get most excited about. Like they're finding some real gems out there, and I like the idea of them being in the States. If they can continue this, like the path they're on as far as like finding these movies, I'm excited. I don't know if it's another British company that has started in the States too. 88 Films. They're on their second release, so I'm not quite sure about logistics and will it be different from the UK titles? Will they be the same? Because in the case of 88 Films, one film that was completely banned in Britain was released here, the Gestapo's Last Orgy, and then the second film was one that was released simultaneously in both the UK and here, which is Chinese Boxer, the Chinese Boxer. So everything was the same in between the two. It kind of like the Arrow releases, So more of it's going to be like an Arrow, where they say, well, we got the rights in the States, but we don't have the rights in UK, or vice versa. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly how this is going to work, but we're more than happy to have them here.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time we were thinking about, what does this mean for both us, Steve and I as consumers, as well as the companies that sell the boutique labels, primarily specifically indicator titles. Having partnering with somebody here stateside, would it make it easier distribution wise for you to acquire their stock, if you will, because it's so close, geographically versus, getting stuff from overseas? I didn't know how the kind of breakdown of that went for you.
Well, they'll find a manufacturer in the States, I'm sure, and it'll be packaged here, and it probably will be available, on platforms that you probably already see the foreign titles on. I mean, I guess Amazon, might be more affordable ways to buy from them. Yeah, it'll be cheaper.
Do you think that will include more than just like whatever they're going to do US wise? Like, are they going to continue? Are they going to have supplies of their UK titles? Do you think in the States? More affordable. Yeah,
I'm not quite sure exactly about the logistics that they hammered out. Like if it's going to be like a Arrow, where it's almost feels like Arrow to me feels like sometimes two completely separate companies, because they have so many titles in the UK that say Shout Factory has or whatever, or Criterion, and in the US they're maybe a little bit more limited as far as what they can carry. So yeah, I haven't seen about exactly what's going to happen, or even a release slate. I don't think I've seen anything that they say they're going to come out with first. I mean, have y'all seen anything yet?
The January releases they just announced last month are all the first slate of U.S. Regent-free titles. So, and of course they've done some Regent-frees in the past, but very few. But yeah, so they're I'm guessing, especially with seeing this re-release of Third Echo in Region A, I'm guessing, a lot of what we're going to see this partnership be is them just trying to get more Region A, even if that means re-releasing things they already have. So maybe there's a limited edition that's out of stock that might get a re-release in Region A, possibly. So there could be a chance to get something you couldn't get before.
That's correct. That could happen.
So, but I agree with you. Indicators always putting out something interesting.
It seems like they're going after films that there's probably not a bidding war over, or there's not too much complaints about there being. Well, we have the U.S. rights, we have the worldwide rights. That's usually how that works. It seems to be mostly films that could probably come out all regions, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. From what is interesting about this slate here is specifically the Triple Echo movie came out the movie that came out in 1970, coincidentally starring Oliver Reed once again, another film. says, it is getting a North American release from Indicator, so it's kind of like their first official quote-unquote North American specific release, as opposed to their other releases being, UK releases that, get imported here to North America. So I guess it kind of tips their hat at, could this be what they're doing in the future? Really kind of doing what Arrow does, releasing one in the UK, releasing one here. How far does that stretch to them as a company and whatnot? And yeah, Arrow has a kind of, I guess, a unique approach to it, where, like as Mark said, it does feel like two different companies, where it feels like there's a North American branch and a UK branch, and they kind of operate differently because of licensing and supplies and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the releases tend to be pretty identical if they're the same title in both places. Just one doesn't have the UK rating marks in the front, and the others do. That seems to be the difference most of the time. And then limited editions are limited. However, one questions we had when they kind of announced all this was, what does it mean when it comes to amount of supplies? Because they're so specific to a limited number, are they going to then split that number between what they're selling in the UK and here, or is it going to be two different sets of limited edition, quantity wise? And I just don't know what that would put on pressure as a retailer, because the demand for these are pretty high now. This company's kind of exploded over the last 2 years.
Yeah, we've done well. We've done well with Indicator Films. In a way, I'm kind of sad to see them come to the States, because I feel like we had some exclusivity about it. But I'm happy that they're doing well enough, and I'm sure they've seen it's obvious that the sales have done well enough for them here in the States to where they made this leap. I'm actually looking at artwork now for the U.S. versions for January, and it doesn't have the rating code that the UK versions have, like the Arrow does. So
yeah.
My guess is they'll probably everything's saying limited edition, but my guess is everything will maybe be doubled. That'd be just sort of a guess on my part. I mean, it's like if you're expanding your market, it doesn't make any sense to keep the numbers low out there. So
I mean, like typically their limited is what, 2,000 or 3,000 for single releases. So I mean, that's not too crazy if you're saying 6,000. That's not too crazy if you just did about 6,000.
Yeah.
For both the States
and for these films, honestly, it's like yes, a Halloween 4K 2,000 would evaporate in a week or two, but it's not terrible as far as these films go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does all depend on the popularity of the title. I mean, that always seems to be the way things go.
You could also compare this a little bit to how Criterion does it, because Criterion's been doing some UK titles, releases, and they can only do selected ones. So that might be like what we're going to get with Indicator. They're going to re-release some previously UK onlys in Region A, but probably not everything.
Right.
So
yeah. But all right. So was there anything we wanted to say about these few titles we got here?
I'll just say this, just to kind of wrap it up. I was able to watch The Devil's Men, and you would think a movie starring Donald Pleasance and Peter Cushing would be good, but it is not.
How many other movies have you seen?
I know. But this is like, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, Donald Pleasance, I love him in Halloween. And then Peter Cushing, I love Hammer Horror, so I love him in the Hammer Horror, films from back in the day. And then I got to put the context in it. Well, okay, this is 1970s Peter Cushing. This is like, look at the context of the films that he was making around this time. Not great films. And this was right before they were both. Peter Cushing was in Star Wars, and right before Donald Pleasance was in Halloween. Kind of two iconic franchises that these actors are kind of attached to now because of pop culture and whatnot. But yeah, this movie, not great. I mean, it's kind of cool to see Donald Pleasance as a priest, like trying to uncover a satanic cult led by Peter Cushing. On paper, that sounds good.
It sounds great. Yeah.
I'm actually
in practicality, that's
out of
all
the
right.
slate. I'm actually most excited about the Unsuitable Job for a Woman. It's actually based on P.D. James' book that was really popular, and I never seen.
Yeah,
it
that
yet.
premise sounds
Yeah,
fascinating.
so that to me looks like out of all these, perhaps the best of the bunch.
Well, I mean, it's as we said, it's Christopher Petit, so we're already sold on him as a director from Radio One. So yeah, I got to check this out. But all right, well, if that's all for the indicator releases for now, now let's move into our last little bit here, where we're gonna have a little bit of fun. So Marc had told me during my visit to OrbitDVD that he was a big fan of the Disney films. You know, he loves Disney. He watches all their stuff, and so I figured we would run with that and kind of do our own spin, since we talk boutique labels on this show. So I put the challenge out to each of us to pick 5 Disney films we would want to see have like the boutique treatment. Do you want to see, Aladdin from the Criterion Collection, or so? But obviously, I think we're all going to probably go in the route of something maybe a little more obscure, maybe.
Yeah. I took this literally too. So I took films that actually have not had a Blu-ray release or at all. So, but I can already, once you framed it to like what label I would like to see it on, I immediately knew each one. So I can roll
okay,
this.
Well,
for sure.
then that's great. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So with that said, Marc, please be the first to give us your first one.
Well, starting at number 5. I was a big dinosaur fan. I still am. My mom had the hardest time finding anything with dinosaurs back in the 70s. They just, I guess, were not popular yet out there as far as toys or books or anything like that. But anyway, she was pleased as punch that Disney released One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing, which was it's like a heist film where they steal a brontosaurus skeleton and to find like a secret recipe that someone hid in the bones somewhere. I remember every minute of this in the theater, a big fan of it. But it has not. I think it maybe came out on DVD. I can't remember. I would love to see, because this is really kind of a sort of lesser Disney. I think a lot of people don't even know what this film is. Mill Creek would be perfect, I think, for one of the dinosaurs is missing.
Nice.
It's like just a wonderful sleeve that always gets bent because it's not under the shrink wrap, and it's a good budget title out there. Yeah, and Mill Creek they're experts in that, so that's my first one.
Well, cool. Yeah, I see that it's directed by Robert Stevenson.
Oh,
He
yeah.
did, like Mary Poppins, and
Treasure Island. Yeah,
another big Disney film. Yeah, cool. That's I've never heard of that one. Have you heard of that one, Andrew?
No, I haven't.
I'd say it probably has fallen because I remember like Peter Ustinov being, I think he was Chinese in the film, so it's one of those where perhaps it has not aged well throughout the decades, but for me as a 7-8-year-old, it was a fun film to watch for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right, Andrew, you want to give us your first one?
Okay, so kind of my list is kind of a mix of kind of favorites, some things that maybe have already gotten releases, but I thought they could use kind of a more deluxe treatment.
That's kind of how mine is.
Yeah, I'll go with an all-time. Like my number 5 is a film that probably everyone's ever heard of. If you haven't heard of it, I guess you've heard of it now. That's Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and the reason why I know this got a Blu-ray release several years ago, maybe 2014. That's just a number I just pulled out of absolutely nowhere. 2013. I was so close for the 25th anniversary. So why not have a 35th anniversary in 2 years? Why not have a 35th anniversary release?
Go for it.
And of course, this is the kind of hybrid animation, live action, kind of the first not real foray into it, but a big foray into it, starring the late great Bob Hoskins, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Christopher Lloyd plays the bad guy that I think haunted the nightmares of every young child's dream in the late 80s. I know it did for me. Still to this day, that final act is hauntingly horrifying. And I don't know. I've always loved this movie. It was such an odd film to watch as a child. Watching it when you're around 3-4 years old, not understanding what the heck is going on, not understanding until years and years later that the movie is kind of a satire of film noir, even with the music and like the saxophone playing, how Jessica Rabbit is basically like a Veronica Lake type character. Speaking of which, today's Veronica Lake's birthday. I don't know how I just threw that one in.
Jeez.
I know. Damn, look at the references. And I don't know. I've always liked Roger Rabbit. I remember going to Disney when I was really little, meeting like someone dressed up as Roger Rabbit at one point. There's pictures of like 3-5-year-old me out there, in that time frame. So I was thinking Roger Rabbit. When it comes to even who would put this out, I don't know.
Come on, man.
I don't know. It feels
Throw
like
one out there.
It feels like an Arrow release because of the weirdness of it. It feels like because the movie's kind of a fever dream too.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. That or Kino. Kino puts out everything.
Well,
you always use Kino as a blanket.
Speaking of Kino and 4K, Disney is releasing a 4K on December 7th of Roger Rabbit. So, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There I go. I gotta get that because I do have this Blu-ray. And I remember this Blu-ray when it came out. There was an issue with it. I think the first run to the first print, the DVD that came with it was faulty, so they had to reissue it. But the reissues didn't have slipcovers, so people were kind of torn about that. I don't know. This is just my own mind from 8 years ago. But so, Steven, is it your turn?
Me.
Yeah,
it is me. So
me.
This is one I grew up with, and I wouldn't say it's like one of the greatest movies ever, but it's one that I find with me. And you could say, this came before the comic book boom, which I would say kind of started probably with Iron Man. The Marvel Cinematic Universe got started. This was right before that, and that's the movie Sky High.
Oh, man.
With Kurt Russell, Kelly Preston, and I think a lot of people have probably seen this movie of the youths today. Where it's basically a high school for superheroes, and you got Kurt Russell and Kelly Preston who have their son who's about to go off for his first time to this school, and they think he has his powers, which they assume is going to be his father's, which is Kurt Russell he's like Superman powers. He's got strength, and he's pretending that he has that strength, but he hasn't gotten his power yet. So it's got some good, he's kind of like the outsider. He goes to school, he meets there's a lot of cool powers put on display. A lot of different, you got like the bad guy who's got like fire powers, and his best friend who secretly likes him has like the poison ivy powers, and but it's a fun kids movie. I've always really enjoyed it. It kind of has a little bit of a self-awareness, a quirkiness to it that I like. And anybody else a fan of Sky High?
Oh yeah, it's a good film. Yep.
Yeah.
I got I have two kids, so one's 27, the other one is 22. So this is exactly the films we would see in the theater with the kids all the time, and it's always good. I think family films got better over the past 20 years because they're appealing to adults as well. There was a terrible time for a while out there, but Sky High was good. It's funny. Yeah, it's a good riff on the superheroes.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. I would say if somebody's going to put this out, and this is what I'm picking, a direct example why I'm choosing this label, I'm going to say Shout Select because they put out Little Big League. So this seems like it fits.
Nice.
Just some random kids movie from, this time period. So I'm like, okay, Shout Select's going to put out Sky High. But all right. Mark, what's your next one?
My next one, and once again, this has not been put out on Blu-ray. This was a sort of a co-production between Disney and Paramount. Paramount had the U.S. rights because I think there's some boobies in it. Yes, yes. And then Disney had the worldwide rights. And this is a wonderful little film that came out in the early 80s. Actually, it might be the 40th anniversary this year. Is Dragon Slayer. I don't know if you've ever seen this film or not. It's a really, really good fantasy film. Phil Tippett did the special effects. I think he was nominated for. He made, imagine someone making really lifelike dragon in the early 80s. Phil Tippett worked, I believe, on Star Wars. I think he was with ILM for a while. Then he left, I believe, to do his own thing. He's actually about ready to hit it real big again in the sort of cult circuit because he's made a stop-motion film for the past 30 years called Mad God, which is premiering in film festivals right now. It's like a post-apocalyptic stop-motion film. Ah. It's been sort of his, cool. Lifelong project. But anyway, really, really great special effects from him. It's sort of that weird, I guess it maybe Excalibur, I think, came out in 81 as well. I can't remember if that was always 80 or 81. So, fantasy films are starting to pick up around this time, and this really didn't do well in the box office, but it is a well-made film, and it is, of course, gone on to a cult following. I think that with Screen Factory's handling of a lot of good sort of 80s sci-fi and fantasy stuff, I think they'd be perfect to put this one out. But this actually just needs to come out. It's like it is out on DVD. It's out on DVD on Paramount here in the States. It's out on Disney overseas. But it'd be great to see a really nice remastered version of this. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I've never heard of this really good film. Once again, another. Okay, cool, awesome. Andrew, what you got next?
Okay, now switching back to more traditional programming, I guess. This movie actually did get a Blu-ray release, and it was probably through the Disney. What's that? Disney Movie Club? Yeah, Disney Movie Club exclusives where they kind of put all their back catalog stuff on there. They're kind of lesser
some good stuff on
I guess
there too.
Maybe. Yeah, of course.
The thing is I don't want to join the club, and I want some of them releases.
Yeah, exactly. But if you go on eBay, of course, people know the demand for them.
Or if you physically come by the store, you might find a couple of those in the shelves. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to upset the mouse. Yeah,
Stephen,
I don't want to upset the mouse. So we're, big respect. But like we buy them from people all the time, and let's just say that there's a pretty good stock in the store. So
there's a demand for them, obviously, and just I think because a lot of the people who grew up with these films are now adults and they want them, and up until Disney Plus just came out, within the last 2-3 years or so. A lot of these films you couldn't really find unless you found them on kind of, lesser DVD versions, if you will. You really, and to find the DVDs weren't exactly easy to find. But this is a film that was a staple of my childhood, and this is a Goofy movie. This is, 1995. I remember seeing this in the theater. I remember being about 8 years old or so. 8 years old. And it was always been a staple of mine. I think it kind of has grown with my generation, and our generation, Stephen, I would say. And I think we've reevaluated it as a film that's a lot deeper than we thought of at the time. Because at the time, we kind of sympathized with the Max character, Goofy's son, who doesn't want to hang out with his dad. He's a teenager. He doesn't want to, spend time with his dad. But now that we've grown up, we're like, hey, maybe you should have spent time with your dad. Maybe, that's the important lesson in this, is that you're supposed to, cherish the time that you have with your parents, with, the important people in your life, whether it's parents, friends, relatives, et cetera, whomever. And the film is really kind of, had a timeless message because of that. And there's certain, all-time funny moments in it. And of all the side characters, outside of Mickey Mouse, Goofy was kind of, I think, the only one to get his own movie, I think. Donald really never got that spotlight. Pluto was just kind of more Mickey's pet. And, the other characters were kind of lesser. And Goofy kind of got his time to shine back in 95. And, of course, they made like a straight to home video sequel, I think at some point later on, but that was when they were making their straight to video sequels that were, lower budget, lesser quality animation, stuff like that. But this was back in that, golden age of Disney corridor that it's not Lion King, it's not Aladdin, it's not Beauty and the Beast, it's none of that, but it's taking a all-time classic Disney character and making him, rather real. And of course it was, paired with the Goof Troop, a TV series that was going on around the same time, or the early 90s, which is something I would love for them to, release fully on DVD or Blu-ray or anything like that. That's another thing with Disney is their television series they haven't treated very well when it's come to the home market. And now, of course, with streaming, they probably don't care anymore, to be honest with you, because they can just put it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. All right. Well, my next one is one I remember growing up, and I remember it being received pretty well. And I think over the years it's gotten a little even more, I think, people more fond of it and figuring out the deeper meanings of this movie. And it is based on a popular book, and it's called Holes, with Shia LaBeouf. And yeah, this came out. This was like I was in middle school, I think, and I think I'd read this book. I remember reading this book right before the movie came out. And it's got a mystery element to it. These Shia LaBeouf plays the kid that gets falsely accused and goes to this camp where they have to dig holes all day, and so it's got some weird elements to it. Also, Sigourney Weaver, John Voight's in this film. So yeah, I remember this being a pretty big hit at the time. Tim Blake Nelson also in this. Anybody else seen Holes?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is another one like the Goofy movies that they are. This is available through the club. The club has this.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
And other places, but
no other places we know. But Andrew, have you seen Holes?
Yeah, I remember when the book came out, and it ended up being, I think, like required summer reading, or they taught it in schools. And it was around like that time where I think I was just getting into high school or still in middle school. Yeah, Holes came out 2003, and I had my freshman year of high school was 2002, so I was just around that time. And yeah, it came out pretty quickly after the book became a success. So it was one of those that came out pretty quickly. And yeah, Disney live action, not a lot of love is given to Disney live action back then.
Back when they used to actually do more original movies.
Yeah, now their live action is just them adapting their animation to live action for the most part.
Yeah.
Or adapting their amusement park rides, like Jungle Cruise. Yeah.
But, all right. Mark, what is your next one?
Okay, I sort of veered off from the movie thing a bit, and I went for I watched The Wonderful World of Disney growing up, and then they had a Disney Channel on cable. It's one of the first channels that they had, and they had a special. Maybe it started on The Wonderful World of Disney, and they moved it over to the Disney Channel. It's a Halloween special. It's called Disney's Halloween Treat. And it's basically just a compilation of anything that could be scary, I guess, for Disney films throughout the ages. And like I said, it's just a compilation, but it's a great compilation. I believe it starts off with, Night on Bald Mountain and goes from there. But, it's got like, it's a classic Huey, Dewey, and Louie. They have some names, right? Donald Duck's nephews. It's a great short film with them, Donald Duck and the Witch, trick or treating. Headless Horseman cartoons on here, and some of the Disney villains that maybe shouldn't be in the Halloween special are on here, but it's still really good. Yeah, so it's a great compilation.
Yeah.
Someone actually gave us a VHS tape they made of it. There's a movement of people making their sort of own, home brewery VHS tapes with their own labels and stickers on the tape and things like that. So someone gave us a great version of this, and we always play the hell out of it, basically in the store. But I would love to see them release a lot of these Wonderful World of Disney, because there's tons of movies and shows and stuff like that they have not re-released, and I don't even know if they're available streaming or not. I think I checked for Zorro, because Zorro was like their first huge sort of like hit. They were in the late 50s when they started the TV show, and I don't think it's on there. So there's a lot of stuff that's just getting lost, I think, through time.
Yeah.
But TV movie, I say Kino. Kino would be a good going back to them. Putting this out.
Yeah, sounds about right. All right, that's a good. I'd say that's another. Once again, Mark's coming out with these really obscure ones. I love it. Andrew, what do you got next?
Okay, what I have next it's a movie that they've already released in kind of not a deluxe, but you know what I mean, like one of their you know how each of their lines, it's like diamond, platinum, super spectacular, whatever. But it's a film that's kind of slightly before their more golden age, and that is The Great Mouse Detective.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's
a good one.
It's a good one. It came out 1986, so yeah, the golden age is 1990. Now, this is slightly before it, and I'm endlessly fascinated by Disney's pre-golden age era, like their 70s and 80s work, because it's so different compared to their 90s golden age stuff, like aesthetically, tonally, production-wise, their animation style. It's so different. And I've always loved The Great Mouse Detective. Of course, a lot of it has to do with the fact that it stars the voice talents of the great Vincent Price, whom I'm a huge fan of. And who doesn't like a Vincent Price villain animated role where he's a rat trying to disguise himself as a mouse? I
would have loved to see the live action version of that with Vincent Price as the mouse.
Oh, I would love to see it. I would have loved to see it. But this movie starts off extremely dark, and where this young, anthropomorphic, I think, mouse's father gets ruthlessly captured. And I always remember that being so dark. Even upon a rewatch as an adult, it's so incredibly dark. And the Blu-ray came out in 2012, and it was part of not even one of their main lines. And they've never re-released it since, because they did release a lot of those pre-Golden Age stuff on Blu-ray, like Rescuers Down Under. Although, if you watch Rescuers and then watch Rescuers Down Under, because they take place, one before, one right at the beginning, they're so diametrically different when it comes to animation. It's fascinating. It's like opening up two different types of time capsules, and I just kind of wish they would have treated their older stuff a little bit better animation wise. Although, of course, they'll re-release Jungle Book a million times and Snow White and Pinocchio and all those kind of stuff, because that's their more prestige classic line. It's like their really early stuff gets a lot of attention because it's super classic, and then their later stuff, because it's their most well-known and profitable, gets attention. But it's that middle ground, ground that they kind of lack a little bit in. So The Great Mouse Detective is just one that I would love. Of course, it's based off of Sherlock Holmes, but with anthropomorphic animals and stuff like that. That's what I kind of grew up on a little bit as a kid. Robin Hood. The animated Robin Hood was something that I've loved so much. That's also gotten Blu-ray attention over the years. That would have been a nice one to put on the list. That's why I'm mentioning it, because I didn't put it on the list. But it's in the same realm as The Great Mouse Detective. So yeah, that's my number 3. We on 3 now?
3, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a Ratigan plush. If that it shows you how big a fan I am of that film. Yeah, amazing film. Love it. Yeah.
What a great name, Ratigan. That sounds like a bad guy.
It almost sounds like a cast off. They're like going, Ratigan. All right, we got it.
Yeah. Where's Ratigan? Get Ratigan in here.
All right. My next one is one that used to creep me out as a kid, and at the time I didn't really know why, but I think it had a lot to do with how the difference with this animated film compared to others, how it was made, being stop motion. And I'm doing James and the Giant Peach, which is one, like I said, creeped me out as a kid. It made me not want to eat peaches. You got spiders inside this peach.
Nasty.
You got, it's nasty. I mean, who wants to eat peaches? I mean, you got spiders and worms and shit in them. But this is based on a Roald Dahl story, and this Henry Selick, who directed this, is also known for, like Nightmare Before Christmas, and he also would eventually do Coraline for Leica. But I always really, I just something about stop motion that just always kind of, get your imagination, even sometimes more so than hand-drawn animation. There's a little bit more of a dimension to it, and, there's a little bit more filmmaking technique with shadows and things like that I really love about stop motion. So there's just some weird, kooky characters in this movie, and it's one I honestly, I bought a Blu-ray for it a while back ago. I need to watch it again. It's been a while. But once again, I mean, Shout Factory probably be good for this, to go along with the other like stop motion stuff that Leica just put out. Throw this in there too. Any other fans of James and the Giant Peach?
Yeah. That was, I believe, one of my daughter's favorites. Becca liked James and the Giant Peach, right? She liked that a lot, I think. Yeah, she did. Yeah, so getting confirmation here. So.
That's good. That's good.
And Roald Dahl we're big fans of. That came out around the same time as Matilda. Remember that one? Yeah, which wasn't a Disney production, but I think Roald Dahl was kind of getting hot again out there. Really great film. I like that a lot.
Awesome, Andrew. What's your next one?
Oh, I think it's my turn. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. Yeah, Mark.
All right, so I'm doing
Mark,
my number 2,
number 4,
and this is a box set. And I think only Arrow can do this man justice. I am talking about the Ernest box set. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
The complete theatrical versions of Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Saves Christmas, Ernest Scared Stupid, my personal favorite, and Ernest Goes to Jail. I think those are the 4 theatrically released Ernest films. He, of course, did stuff before and after. He had I don't know if they really were, I think they were like co-production deals with Disney. I can't remember, but like we haven't had Ernest movies on DVD in a while. They've been out of print for maybe a couple of years, and the prices are starting to shoot up. You can still get them. They're not going crazy yet, but someone has to do this man justice, because I feel like that. He really endeared his character to a lot of kids, a lot of families. I am not embarrassed to say that I saw 2 out of these 4 films in the theater as a full-grown adult. I was an adult when I think I was 18 when Ernest Goes to Camp came out, and we had a great time. And I was in college, and of course when Ernest Scared Stupid came out, and we had a great time in school there. Jim Varney used to do commercials in our area growing up in Tennessee. So I was already familiar with the character, and it just felt like a good leap for him. And like I said, I think a 4-film box set by Arrow would do great.
I told you. This is the one I want out of all the things I've heard so far.
I'm pitching, Well, it's like what we have noticed is nostalgia, and it's people your age, that are really. Yeah. I'm like going, you want to buy this, really? It's like why do you want this movie? And it's like, well, I think we got it nailed. It's like what you were able to rent from a video store back in the 80s and 90s, and so it's like R-rated films. Those films really were not rentable to a lot of kids, of course. So unless you had either cool or sick parents, I guess. But anyway, like a lot of these films were PG films and PG-13 films that there's a lot of nostalgia for, and the Ernest films definitely are right there. Like late 80s, early 90s, pretty much. Yeah.
You're making me want to watch Ernest. I got to watch Ernest now at some point soon.
I know. I'm feeling the nostalgia.
It's been a while. Yeah.
I'm feeling the nostalgia. I would want that as well. I mean, those are some of the films I grew up on. I mean, I remember Ernest Goes to Jail was the first one I saw when I was very, very young, and then I saw the others afterward at some point, like Ernest Goes to Camp. I think Ernest, I remember renting, or like the Halloween, the Ernest Halloween. These all got Blu-ray releases, except for the Ernest Saves Christmas. These all got Blu-ray releases by Mill Creek a decade ago on Blu-ray. Okay. And they're all out of print now, unfortunately. So the rights are out there, whomever has them, or if Mill Creek still has them. And I remember seeing these in all kinds of bargain bins and stores, a decade ago. And I remember when these first came out, and a lot of people from, my generation, our generation, Stephen, were buying them because, they grew up with them. But they've been out of print for quite a few years. So, some of them go for, quite a bit of money on the secondary market, and Ernest Saves Christmas never got a release at all. But Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Goes to Jail got a release, Ernest Scared Stupid got a release, and I think that's it. But I would love to see these get re-releases, especially now. That'd be great. I mean, I think there's, of course, still a market for it. But for me, my number 2 is... The Black Cauldron. The Black Cauldron, which has gotten a release through the Disney Movie Club recently, I want to say. And 2021, May 2021, actually. And The Black Cauldron is a film from 1985, and it's based off of the Chronicles of Prydain, like YA and young adult, more children book series, fantasy book series from the 60s. And this was a book series that I read when I was in elementary school and kind of early middle school. And they're about that appropriate reading age. Like if you go to a Barnes & Noble now, you'll find it in the children's section. And it was kind of like children's fantasy. And I was always been a big fan of fantasy. And this was before I had gotten into Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. So this was kind of, my introduction to larger fantasy. Of course, at the time, Harry Potter had probably just come on the scene when I had started reading these books. So, that, of course, would, shoot up the popularity of the fantasy genre even more. But The Black Cauldron is kind of a combination of the plot of the first book, which is... the first book, and then the second book, which is The Black Cauldron. And it's a film that's not talked about a lot amongst people. And it's always a film that I sometimes forget even exists because it kind of just gets buried. And I've always wanted it to kind of get a bit of a resurgence. I would love for this series, The Chronicles of Prydain, to get some type of remake of some kind at all. And perhaps through a remake it would, rise the popularity of this film and get more eyes on it, and then people would kind of, be more open to it. It's, yet again, right before the prime, golden age of Disney, so you get the kind of that darker tone of filmmaking, of animation, stuff like that. And yeah, I've always dug it. And I would love a new release of this. I mean, I've been slacking when it comes to... which companies I would want to release some of these, but this feels like a Shout Factory release. I don't know. I've got that vibe because Shout's been putting out some animation recently, or has it been Kino? Either way, Shout or Kino seems to be appropriate for this.
Or Warner Archives if it wasn't Warner Brothers, if it was Warner Brothers, but because the Tex Avery stuff.
Yeah, they've been putting out the Tex Avery stuff. They put out the Pink Panther, Popeye, all those kind of animation. But that's older animation than this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that actually I didn't even think of Warner Archive when it came to this. Good call, Stephen. Good call.
Well, yeah, but it's Warner Brothers, so they're pretty stuck on one type of, just Warner Brothers stuff. So
yeah, I mean, this is Disney, but I'm actually curious. I'm assuming they must still own the rights.
Actually, I think I read somewhere that they're looking to revisit this maybe as a series. So that.
Oh, okay.
That could be good or
even
bad,
as an animated series.
But
yeah, I mean, right now, turning book series into television series is on the rage, whether it be animation or live action. Live action they tend to be going with now, especially with fantasy, but I don't know. Well, things remain to be seen how that's going to work. Everybody saw how big of a hit Game of Thrones was, and they're like, hey, we should start turning all these fantasy, book series into television series now, as opposed to making them into movies because it didn't work. So it remains to be seen how successful they are going to be in the post Game of Thrones world. But that's TV. That's TV talk.
All right. My next one is a big favorite of mine. I think I've maybe even brought this up at some point before. And there's nothing like getting a kids movie by the guy who wrote 40-Year-Old Virgin, Judd Apatow.
Nice.
Heavyweights. Heavyweights is just I showed this to my wife not too long ago, and she acted like she didn't like it, but I know she liked it because she was like kind of acting like she wasn't paying attention to it, but then she'd look up every once in a while and laugh, and then she'd go back to what she was doing. And I was like, "You like this movie?" And she's like, "Nah." I was like, "You like this movie?" But this is it. This is the film about a fat camp, as they call it in the movie, where kid goes to this camp or gets made to go to this camp because he's overweight, and he goes into it not feeling like it's going to be for him, but then he ends up making a lot of what seems to be lifelong friends. It's got, I think for the, you might look on the surface and think that this is a movie that's going to be a little dated, and maybe not be good for, the culture we're in now, but it kind of has a good, vibe to, being comfortable with your own bodies and stuff like that. Though Ben Stiller's main character, of course, is pretty villainous, which to me, he's just playing his dodgeball character before his dodgeball movie. And which I always tell people this is the prequel to Dodgeball. But yeah, big fan of this movie. Some scenes of food porn of kids jumping around with fireworks, eating ungodly amounts of pizza and marshmallows and things. Any other fans of Heavyweights here?
That is after my time, and I think that maybe was in this weird.
Really?
Well, yeah, 52. So, but I think this is before my kids started watching the Disney films. So I think maybe this slipped through the cracks for me. I don't think I've ever seen this one. Yeah.
Really? Wow, I need you to watch this.
Oh,
one.
Sure, yeah, of course,
please. Because it's. I mean, like Ben Stiller in this movie alone is why I like to revisit it, because he really is kind of playing his dodgeball character before he makes that movie. Like it's like a warm up, because he plays this very over the top physical fitness guy who wants to make it big. Like he wants to turn the camp into like an infomercial for losing weight, and like he's so insidious in this movie. But it's also got some tenderness to it. It's got some great feel good characters, and a lot of the cast members from the Mighty Ducks movies are in this movie. So it's the creators of the Mighty Ducks made this. So. Andrew, fan?
Oh yeah, I saw this when I was much younger, probably when they would replay it on the Disney Channel or something like that. I remember, of course, it came out in 1995, so you're getting a lot of the same kid actors of that era would show up in this. Like you said, a lot of kids from Mighty Ducks, like Shaun Weiss and Kenan Thompson.
Kenan Thompson, yeah.
Even
Paul Feig
is in the movie as one
yeah.
of the camp counselors or whatever. And yeah, it was always kind of a movie that ends up being a movie about body positivity, which I think actually has quite a contemporary message, as the world of social media has exploded, and body consciousness has been a lot more prevalent nowadays, and bullying, of course, exists now way more than it's ever existed before because of the extent of communication people have and all kinds of stuff. But this is a movie that I know got a Blu-ray release.
Yeah, I did.
2012, because I remember a lot of people buying it back then, and it was always a childhood favorite for a lot of kids our age.
You know who's gonna release this though in the boutiques?
Oh,
it's gonna be Severin.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
because Severin just put out Overboard, and so all they need now is they need a Disney film about a fat camp in their collection. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't say it's out of the realm of possibility. Once you get Overboard, you kind of open the doors to everything.
Yeah. Well, that, and they also they put out the Mike Lee film. They're putting
All or Nothing, but
All or Nothing. Yeah,
that's Mike Lee.
They're going everywhere. So why not put out the Disney Heavyweights movie? So yeah. All right, Mark, your last one. What's the number one?
Last
this
one.
Is gonna be crazy.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Warner Archives not really wanting to do anything else besides Warner Brothers. So I think I might have to go with, going back to Indicator Land with Powerhouse, because they do great with collections and things like that. I just want the shorts out. I want the cartoons. It's like the cartoons are not available. You can't stream them. You can't. They came out. A lot of them came out in treasure, like these treasure collections that now are worth sometimes $400 or $500 out there on DVD. And like the Silly Symphonies, the Mickey Mouse collection 1 through 10, Donald Duck 1 through 10, Goofy had 2 out. One of my favorites is a bear. Humphrey's a bear. Humphrey the bear was always trying to get free food, and the park ranger would thwart him at all times. And absolutely great cartoons out there. They're gone, and that's a shame, because that's how Disney started. Yes, a lot of this stuff, you watch it, it's like going, okay, this might not be the best thing to watch, but I say 99% of them are. They're fine, It's like, and I just don't understand.
You gotta. I mean, we have context. Now, if people are smart enough, they can understand that some things are going to age poorly. Well, that's how it is. But
it's a long sort of history where both Warner Brothers and Disney and MGM, they have pulled the more insensitive ones from and rightfully so. I totally agree with that, to be honest. But like some of these cartoons are like Goofy. Goofy was perfectly brought into the 90s as a character, but like in the 50s, he became sort of like the suburban man. Going, here's he is doing, he's exercising, he's on the Matterhorn. It's like. It's like here he is, driving to work every day, like in the modern society, like they actually were kind of genius in a way, because he was a perfect foil for whatever the world piled on him, because he was always such a beaming light of positivity at all times. So these need to come out, and I don't understand why these companies have really just sort of, and I'm going beyond Disney at this point. It took forever for Warner Brothers to even start doing anything with their short cartoons. Like the Tex Avery collection. Why did it just start coming out? That Volume 1 came out last year. Why?
Yeah.
It's like, why? Here's the old man yelling at the cloud moment, basically. But why? But the Disney Channel is great, because they had hours of these cartoons, or what was the Cartoon Network spinoff, Boomerang. Boomerang they showed shorts, all Tom and Jerry and Droopy and Warner Brothers and stuff like that. It was great, it's great stuff.
Well, it's once again just picking things that we're picking all the recent stuff. Things people know. You're over the animated shorts.
But that's some good stuff though. Like that.
No, I'm saying, that's the stuff that really needs to be put out there. We're just picking stuff that already has Blu-ray.
Yeah, I know.
Look at us.
That's the stuff that I watched a lot as kids. Cause that would be the programming that they would put on Disney Channel back in the 90s, when Disney Channel was kind of first in its initial run. I think it's gone. I think Disney Channel is officially ending soon or something like that. Anymore.
It's like, it's all about streaming. But even on streaming, you can't find these cartoons. It's like they're not there.
Yeah. Back in the day, before they had like original programming on Disney, all day they would just play their catalog stuff, and it would be, like you said, the Goofy cartoons. It would be all that kind of stuff, all the old school stuff, and that's kind of what I would watch during the day. Right. As a young kid, and in the late 80s, early 90s, and I was always wondering what happened to that stuff. Like, how can one watch it now?
Right.
And unless you're have access to the Disney vaults, perhaps you can't see it. And I've always It's
There's
just
50
like,
years. There's
bring
50
it out.
years, and this is all companies. There's 50 years of short cartoons. I think they ended probably mid 60s. So you're talking like 20s to the 60s, and it is a long, long period of film history that that's being swept under the rug, I think.
Very much so. I know that a couple of companies they've put an effort in releasing kind of old school stuff. I mean, Warner Brothers, they've started and stopped with Looney Tunes a bunch of times. They released a bunch of different sets, like Golden Collection library sets, all kinds of stuff. They've released Blu-rays. I know Tom and Jerry, they tried to do it with like 2 volumes like a decade ago, and they stopped. I think it's cost and interest seems to be the 2 things that stop these things. Which the interest always kind of boggles me because people want it. I mean, the cost I can understand. A lot of these shorts are from, 40s, 50s, 60s. We're talking decades upon decades. What is the, how good have these things been restored or just stored in general over the last several decades? How much restoration work needs to be put into it? Where are they going to get the money for this? Also, physical media wise, who's going to want to buy them now? All that kind of, all kind of question marks.
Yeah. I remember.
I guess that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
like, specifically with the Warner Archives and Tex Avery, Warner Archives did say very explicitly. They said, "You buy this, we'll make more." Well, they made a volume 2. So it's like obviously the demand is there. At least for like the Warner Archives is kind of genius with the manufactured on demand. The costs are way lower. Now granted, like you said, the mastering might not be as good as, say, a boutique release, but it's out there. It's available.
Yeah.
And
and I know there's going to be a volume 3 of Tex Avery. Actually, volume 3 came out October 5th. So if that sells well, I'm assuming a volume 4. But the existence of Warner Archive has been up in the air all year so far.
Well,
so
they
we're not
technically no longer exist, but they are merging with. It's another bit. Is it Universal? I think they're merging with Universal. So it's going to be archival stuff from both companies, which is weird because they did Paramount for a while. Warner Brothers was releasing Paramount titles.
Yes, they were.
Man, who knows?
That is kind of odd, and yet you are right. Yeah, I mean, the early days of this show from back in April, Stephen. You remember us talking about, what's happening with Warner Archive? Yeah. Are they shutting down? They going away? But hey, they're still releasing stuff. But for how long? And then that whole the whole merger with Universal kind of makes sense. But I know Warner Brothers had a deal with Paramount for years where they would release. They'd release a movie, and then like a couple of years later, there would be that same exact movie would get a re-release, but under the either Paramount or Warner Brothers name, and it would be kind of a cheaper version of that same movie. I remember that was going on for a few years. I think Sunset Boulevard was like that, where initially it was a Paramount release, then a couple of years later, they'd re-release it as a Warner Brothers release. Same exact disc, same exact packaging, same exact everything, but whatever distribution deal they had, I guess that was the stipulation. It was, kind of annoying as a collector because you didn't know which version you were going to get.
What versions? What version is definitive, or is it the same disc in there and just a different packaging? I think that's like it. Yeah.
A lot of the time, the re-release packaging would be the dreaded Eco Case packaging, and that's why the price was like $10 cheaper than the original release, I guess. But moving on to my number 1 is a movie called The Brave Little Toaster. And this is a movie from 1987. A DVD of this came out in 2003, and it's the only available disc version of this movie. And this was a movie I watched when I was super, super young. And this is one of the more kind of existential, serious, Disney films dealing with similar themes that they would then use in the Toy Story series. It's kind of an animated version of Toy Story, but instead of toys, it's appliances. It's a toaster, it's a lamp, it's a radio, it's a blanket, it's a vacuum, and they're all anthropomorphic. And this whole story is them trying to find their owner. They've kind of been left behind, kind of been forgotten, and that seems super sad and existential. And it was really ahead of its time in that regard when taking like a super serious story and putting it within a child story. And there was a lot of kind of traumatizing things in there to be watching as a young child. And I've always wondered why this movie never got its due diligence, when a lot of the stuff that it covered would be super popular, would be used in more super popular mediums later on, like in Toy Story. And I don't know, but I would love for this to get a Blu-ray release. It hasn't even gotten one from their movie club line, so I don't know what they're waiting for. I would just absolutely love it. It's another one where this feels like Kino all over it. It really does. Because they've put out the Jetsons movie, which came out, I want to say a couple of years after this, but it feels like in that same era for me as a kid.
All right,
Steven, have you seen The Brave Little Toaster? Did it register for you?
Yes, my wife actually introduced me to this movie.
Oh, see?
She has the DVD that you talked about. She has this as she has like a, maybe like a 25 film movie collection, and this was one of them. was The Brave Little Toaster.
Nice.
And I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it did. Like you said, because I am a big fan of the Toy Story franchise. This was all like revelation to me, being like, man, they really did take a lot from this movie. Being a lot of the same creators of this went over to work for Pixar. Yeah, I mean, it really is good, and it is dark and especially like the what was it, like the air conditioning unit is like the bad guy for a little bit, and then he like blows up. And then
and they go to like a junkyard. It's all like super traumatic and stuff, and it's like, oh, where did they then use this later on? Toy Story 3 had that
the third
same
one, yeah.
Toy Story 3 had that same type of situation at a junkyard where, that's where things go to die, is a junkyard.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed that film. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess my last one. I don't know who would put this out. I mean, I'll go with Indicator because I enjoy their stuff. I'm going to go ahead and say, initially I was just going to talk about the first movie, but I might as well just bring up the trilogy.
Nice.
Because they're all amazing. Not really. I like the first one the most. But the Honey, I Blew Up the Kids franchise.
There was a third one?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. I'm sorry, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
Yep.
And then Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about that third movie.
To be a fourth film, I heard too.
Oh,
really?
Original
I haven't heard that.
cast, maybe. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Rick Moranis is coming back.
Rick Moranis, yeah, Disney Plus.
That would be amazing. Oh man, but so the first film, of course, I think is the most beloved of the franchise. It's where Rick Moranis creates this shrinking machine, and then of course the kids, are meddling around the area where it's at, and they one by one start to get shrunk, and then they kind of go on an adventure, like they get stuck in the backyard, and they have to go on this adventure through the backyard to try to get attention to their dad to get them, and so they're like, they meet a big ant, and then there's bees, and it's a really fun movie. I really enjoy it. It kind of makes me think of like old like Ray Harryhausen type of effects and things like that. Like it's a really fun movie, and they finally get in the house, and there's the dog there, and just seeing all these things from that perspective is really fun. And then going to the other movies, like the second film, in this case, he makes his infant son really large, and so you get a lot of like just absurd things where the baby's walking around the town. It's been a while since I've seen the sequels, but I just remember seeing the baby walking around the town and stepping on cars, and and then the third movie, the parents actually shrink themselves, and the kids are having like a party, and they're not supposed to, and I think Alice Mack was in that, plays the daughter.
Bringing it back, Steve. You're bringing it back.
Yeah,
Nice.
and this was, of course, around the time Smallville was about to come out, I think. So she was about to get popular with Smallville.
Oh, man. Now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But, yeah. Anybody else a fan of the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise?
Y'all know about the horror pedigree involving the first film, right? You hear about this? You know about this?
You'll have to remind me.
The original story was pitched by Stuart Gordon and Brian Yunza. Reanimator, From Beyond, Dolls, stuff like that. They, I think, perhaps tossed the script that they had, but they still got a screenwriting credit and things like that. So there is a horror connection to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Yeah.
I mean, it feels like an old school like sci-fi.
And I think that's
premise.
it. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It feels like atomic age sci-fi.
Yeah, it sounds like something would have come out in the 50s, like the original Fly or something like that, where it's an accident.
Or Cripple Shrinking Man, perhaps.
Yeah, Credible Shrinking Man.
I think I remember correctly, and I can't remember interviews with Yunza and Gordon about this, but of course, their script probably was a little bit too dark for Disney,
Probably.
And so they of course Disney-fied it, I'm sure. But no, we saw that in college and had a blast with that film for sure. Yes.
Yeah. And it's directed. The first one's directed by Joe Johnston, who did another good Disney film. I'm surprised nobody brought up The Rocketeer. Yeah. Would be another good one on a list like this, but I really even though the sequels are not nearly as good as I would say as the first one, they're still fun and they're still like engaging enough to watch them. They're not like boring or anything. They're always fun, and Rick Moranis is always good.
Yeah, and I remember. Yeah, now that I remember the third one, because the third one was, I think, straight to video release that came out in 1997. Yeah. So I remember renting that, and the director of that film was Dean Cundey, who of course is the famous DP of like Jurassic Park, Apollo 13, Halloween. I mean, yeah, Back to the Future. I think part 1, 2, and 3. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I brought up earlier. So that's an interesting connection. Very interesting connection. But I do remember that third film, because that third film had, like you said, Allison Mack, who would be in Smallville 4 years later. She's now, of course, in prison.
Somebody had to bring it up.
Somebody had to bring it up. She's now, of course, in prison. I mean, Mila Kunis is in this film, and this was, I think, a year before that 70s show came out.
Yeah, this must have been one of her first things, yeah.
Yeah, this was right before that 70s show came out, so interesting kind of time capsule of a film. And this was this has to be one of Rick Moranis'.
Now I gotta watch Ernest, and I gotta watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Yeah.
This may have been, okay, let's see. Yeah, this may have been his last live action thing that he did. Until he was, that's the last live action thing he must have done.
Rick
and then after that, he did a bunch of like, Rick Moranis. He did a bunch of like voiceover stuff, and of course he left Hollywood and all that kind of stuff, and people have been clamoring for his return for 20 years.
And then he just gets punched randomly by some stranger in New York
on the street.
Crazy.
Yeah, remember that nonsense?
The hell is that all about?
No idea.
But. All right, well that's it, man. I mean, we haven't done a show this long in a minute.
A couple of weeks,
few episodes.
You must thank my lovely wife who stayed silent the entire time this is going on too.
We appreciate it. We
do appreciate it. The toughest thing is to get in quiet areas because the microphones pick up everything.
But Mark, we really appreciate you coming on and talking movies with us. And, of course, please, everybody, go to this OrbitDVD.com and check through their catalog of physical media on there. And then, of course, they also got other things. They got merch. They got posters, a lot of good stuff there. And, of course, please, the video that's going to be out here along with this, go check that out on Chasing Labels YouTube channel page. And so, with that said, Mark, what's the best place to contact you?
Oh, don't contact me, please.
Okay. Don't say anything.
No.
Everybody
that's
just
go
buy stuff.
There's a link on the website. That's probably the best way to do it. I can be reached sometimes during the day on social media, Instagram, Facebook. I'm happy to answer questions there. We are a physical store, so feel free to stop by if you're ever in Asheville, or give us a call if you want as well. But just there's links on the website to lead you to me or somebody representing me for the day.
So is there there's a stand-in Marc?
There's
I'm Marc, but it's not really.
We have many Marcs
I got you.
working there for that day.
Awesome.
Andrew, where are you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Cabzilla06, as well as the YouTube channel for this podcast in Chasing Labels. And those are the two best places.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can find me at all the other Chasing Label pages, whether it be Twitter, my Letterboxd, which is at Chasing Labels, or the Instagram page, which is at Chasing Label Pod. And you can find the audio for this podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, all the major players. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.